Resurface from Southeast, South Central. They're the co-op that works with us and aids us, assists us. They're a wonderful, wonderful partner for the school system for a lot of things that we do in the classroom. Transportation side, we've not ever really been able to utilize them in the past, but they're going to talk to you about student behavior management. They're just, I'm not going to get into step of what they're going to talk about because I really don't know. But I've we know behavior management is a big, big part of what we do every day on a school bus. Hopefully they can give you some things to think about, some ways to maybe do things maybe a little bit differently than we've done in the past, different ways to maybe think about how we work through issues and problems. But I've given them about an hour, so they've got about, I think they will do their best to stay within that hour. So I'm just going to turn it over to them. If y'all need anything, holler at me. I'll be close by.
Glad you got this clock back there on the wall. That'll help keep us.
Yeah, that one's a little fast. That one is a couple minutes fast. So.
That's okay. You're all right for fast. Before we get started, I'd just like to thank Rockcastle County for asking us. You all are the first group of bus drivers that we've trained. And we're just glad to be here. And hopefully you'll get some information that you can use. If you can't, you got some nice freebies we brought you candy. But anyhow, we believe you'll get some good information from you today. And like I said, we appreciate the opportunity to be here and like to welcome you to hopefully enjoy this training. I've been in training. And we're just gonna get through it, okay? We're gonna get through this, and you can check off. I've done that. I'll use this right
You
here.
can use that.
Thank you. I would probably mess that up.
Okay. All right. Just want to give you that option.
Maybe, yeah. Okay. How many of you, is this your first year to be driving a school bus?
My last year, does that count for anything?
How many has driven the bus for 5 years or less? Okay. What about 10 years? 15? 20? 25? How much?
Me,
Yeah.
20, she's got more, she's got 27, 28.
29 years. Wow. And how about you back here? How many?
23.
23. That's awesome. So you that are not as experienced, you saw the people that raised their hand that have more experience. If you've got questions, that would be a good person to buddy up with that might be able to give some advice or help them figure out what to do.
You don't know that.
I don't. You know, there's more than one, so you just figure out which one you might be able to buddy up with. And I want to say this to bus drivers. People can say whatever they want, and they'll say, you're the most important thing, you're the most important thing. But as bus drivers, you really are. You're the first person that child sees connected to their school every day. And how that starts can make a difference. And if that child has a good day or a bad day, and if it's a child full of behavior problems, it can make a difference in how your day goes.
Exactly.
We know how that is. So what you do is no little thing. That's one reason it is so hard to get good bus drivers and keep them, but it looks like Rockcastle's got something figured out because we've got a lot of experienced drivers in here. That's great. So anyhow, we're going to give you a little information about things that's going on in your school and things that you might be able to tap in and help you on your school bus as well. Now, has anybody in here heard of the word PBUS? I know Mr. Hopkins has, so I asked him. And that's okay if you don't. But this is what it stands for. Positive behavior, intervention, and supports. And when we have things like that in place, sometimes it can help create a positive and safe environment on your school bus. Now, all the schools in Rockcastle County are part of what they call the PBUS program. Because, you know, you don't just have behavior issues that you deal with on the school bus. During the school day, they really sometimes have a lot to deal with too. So PBUS is available through the co-op, and they come in and they train and they go over information and develop things for the school to have in place to help improve student behavior. Now, as bus drivers, if you just had 2 or 3, and Luann's going to talk more about that in a little bit, if you just have 2 or 3 things that you want to make sure that the students do on your bus, and if you have them posted somewhere front and center where they can see them, it's real possible if you have and we would call it PBUS rules, that the teachers in the school might be able to take your rules, teach the students what these rules mean, because we do have students that don't get it, do not understand even what it means, like keep your hands to yourself, keep your feet to yourself, whatever. We've got students that don't understand that. We've got students that do understand it, but they need reminding. They need practice. They need to practice doing that. But the teachers can help you with that. They can teach students how to get on and off the bus safely. They can teach students how to ride the bus safely. They could do that. But you've got to give them something to do first. Does that make sense? So every school, now their schools are at different levels of this PBUS interaction. But the research shows that schools that are involved and deal with behavior on purpose are higher scoring, that this is really an effective way to deal with student behavior. Because what happens so many times, we get carried away with instruction. Well, let's do this strategy, let's do this program, let's do that, and never really have anything in place that everybody's doing across the board in the schools to take care of how we're going to take care of these behavior problems. Because most schools you go in, teachers, well, I can't teach. I've got these students that have these bad behaviors, and it just throws everything off. So that's why having something intentional on your behavior is so important. So we're not expecting you to be experts today, because we're not even experts by no means, but we do have enough information that we can share with you and make you aware of what what the others are talking about in school. They start talking about PBUS and all this kind of stuff. Okay. How many know who this is? Were you at the Palooza that?
No, I'm also an administrator, so yeah.
We had him as he was like hilarious.
Oh, yeah.
He's a mess. We love Jerry Bruce. So I told Luann, I said, we've got to include some of these. But anyhow, it's real important to have you start the year off, particularly that very first day of school. So let's see what Jerry's got to say. Now, he worked a minute ago. So
Hey, Miss Smith. Yeah, sorry to call you on the first day of school, Mr. Principal. Yeah, I got Jennifer up here in the office. Yeah, she's having a really, really rough day. Yeah, I just wondered maybe you or her grandma could maybe come pick her up. I just don't want to send her home. Yeah, I had to send the counselor down there because she wasn't doing anything. She was refusing to do anything in the classroom. She's just had a really rough day, so I'm thinking maybe it would be good if maybe somebody could come pick her up. Yeah. Well, why's her day been so bad? Well, she started out by she said everybody was making fun of what she was eating for lunch. What? Oh, and making fun of her hair and making fun of her first day outfit. So she just hates this place. She keeps saying everybody's stupid. What? Including me. Your mama said not to be sassy. So I'm wondering if maybe somebody could come pick her up. We got to school in about 45 minutes. Okay, great. You'll be here within an hour. Okay, all right. We'll talk to you later. Okay, your mama's coming up here, and she's gonna talk to you. And you can stay in Miss Dewsnap's office. But here's what we're gonna do. You're gonna go home and talk to your grandma, talk to your mama, and you're gonna have a better day tomorrow. You know why? Because these are kids, and you're the teacher. And sometimes they're gonna make fun of what you're wearing and what you're eating and your haircut. And you're an amazing teacher, and you got to get through the school year, and we cannot start the school year this way. So you're gonna suck it up, and you're gonna have a good day tomorrow. Okay? All right, I'll talk to you later. You have a good day. All right, go down to Mrs. Dewsnap's store. All right, you can sit in there. All right, talk to you later. Good Lord. Hey, Miss Smith.
Wait a minute, no. That's not Amy Smith. Anyhow, look at the slides, and we've gone over what PBIS is, and, why does it matter? If we know that behavior is a problem, and we just like, behavior's a problem, we need to really bear down on these students, or we need to do something, but there's not a plan in place where everybody's kind of aware and doing the same type of thing, possible that there'll be some things that's you miss out on, okay? So traditional discipline, you know, when we went to school, or I know when I did, probably when you did too, the focus was on punishment more than anything else. Wait till the child, you know, something happens, then deal with it. And to be honest, when I was in school, that's all it took, and that worked. But today's different. Today's different. That boat don't float anymore. So if it's not floating, we ought to figure out plan B. PBIS offers a more positive alternative by teaching and rewarding expected behaviors and reduces the need for reactive discipline. You know, when something happens, we react. What are we going to do? This leads to a more positive and focused learning environment for the students on their way to school and from school. Now, if you have something posted up in the front of your books, now you said you were a principal over here, if these drivers, and you could help them, and you could probably do it by yourself, it's not like rocket science, and this is the rockets, right? So you all should just should be a breeze, but if they had a few rules, and they're posted, they're laminated, and they're up there, do you think teachers in your school, what school do you?
Mount Vernon Elementary. Yes.
Elementary will do this more. Others might come on board if you prove to them this works. But can you see the benefit of your teachers taking the rules on the bus and teaching the students, this is how you get on the bus. This is how you get off the bus. Because the students say, no, you don't ever figure or take anything for granted. Am I telling you right?
Yes.
You don't assume anything. And then whatever the rules that you decide that you want to have for your bus, let the teachers include that when they're teaching their behavior management, you know, and this has to happen off the bat at the first of school, the first days when they start talking about the procedures for their classroom. So it'd be really important if the teachers, if you could get this list of what your expectations, and like I said, it'd be good if everybody had the same ones, because students move around, bus drivers move around, and if we train them on the same type of things, make it simple, make it, Now, it don't have to be rocket science. It can just be really, really simple. But do you think your teachers would include that? It wouldn't take what, 10 minutes of their time to do that, and they'd be glad to do that. And you know what? It can't hurt. And that's not like a lot of time. Mr. Hoskins, what we had just discussed a little bit was if they have procedures like 2, 3 statements and have them posted, probably laminated stuff. And if everybody had the same thing, then some of the schools, particularly the elementary, high school and middle school, definitely, that's where they need it the most. And they might do it too, but they could teach those appropriate bus behaviors, how to get on the bus, how to get off the bus, how to act on the bus. They can teach that right along with their procedures for their classroom.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Mhm,
But
absolutely.
if everybody had one thing, and this principal right here might be, I mean, him and maybe somebody else could just come up with what they are, and it just be a matter of typing them up, laminating them, giving them out, sticking them up.
Yep.
And then getting the information out. It'd be another thing for the principals to do, you could share with them with your leadership meetings. But this is something that principals will get on board. Because now, I'll tell you this, now, are you the principal or are you an assistant?
Assistant principal.
Assistant principals usually deal with what?
Discipline.
Discipline.
Bus issues.
What is the
Very
most
basic.
aggravating thing you deal with that takes your time away from instruction? It's discipline and particularly bus referrals. It takes if you're talking something to help that principal, that assistant principal, free up some time, maybe on some write-ups that you're doing and having to deal with all that, they're gonna get on board. And particularly if you find some schools, well, this is working, we have fewer write-ups. Well, that might make the other one, well, what did you do, you know? And it's not like it's like, boom, it's gonna be wonderful and perfect, solve every discipline problem on the bus. Not that. But it is a way, and you're looking at it on purpose, and everybody's looking at it, and we're looking at it the same way. Okay. And students, that way they can feel like they're part of the bus, they know what's expected, and it just helps all the way around. Thank goodness. If you look at that pyramid, there's, most of it's like down here, right there. Another pretty good part, but less, is on up here. See, on up there is fewer. Now, what that is referred to, and you may have already heard about it, assistant principal over here could probably get up and do this better than I'm doing it, but it's the tiers. There's 3 tiers to the PBUS, they call it the PBUS framework. So that biggest one is number 1, and it applies to all students. And you focus on teaching and reinforcing the positive expectations toward the school bus. The second one is a group of students that need targeted supports. And these are students who just occasionally struggle to meet what's expected of them. So you can provide some additional support or some interventions, you know, assign them a seat, assign them a buddy to sit by them on the bus. Whatever you have found that works for you in the past, it would be a clue to what to try this time. And all the experience you've got, you know what to do. Then you've got that tier 3, which is that little, thank God, number at the top, that these are students with chronic behavioral challenges. for those students, we would need to look at maybe developing a written plan. And this assistant principal, I'm gonna just have to use you a whole lot as an example. You would, in the middle of, you've got all these referrals, you're getting referrals every week on the same behavior for these two students. Then you need to set up something, or the bus driver could contact you, set up a meeting and talk with the parents, talk with the teachers. What can we do here? We have got a situation. Now, we're not talking special transportation or anything like that at this point. Could leave there, could go there. But you do have some students that have some pretty bad behavior problems, but you can manage and deal with them with a plan on the bus, particularly if you have a monitor on that bus. How many of you have monitors on your bus? That's great. How many of you drive a handicap bus for handicapped students? God bless you. My heart just goes to the students, to the people that work with the students with disabilities. In my career, that's all I've ever done, is I was administrator of the programs for special ed. Luann was a special education teacher, so our ears are always perked up when it comes to dealing with the students with disabilities and making sure. Now, one thing too, this just run through my mind, if you have students on your bus, I don't know if you need to ask your principal, or is this something, okay, what's your name? Just tell me. What?
Anthony.
Anthony, if you've got drivers and the child is allergic to bee stings, bad, then do you tell the bus driver, or do you expect them to ask you?
No, we let them know.
You let them know. And whether they might have a health problem, and they could develop them, they could have not had it last year, and this year they've got it. So make sure, if you're a principal, that, and you might ask them, is there anything I need to know about this group of students? Because it can literally be life and death, especially with health issues. So, you know what tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 is now. Thank goodness most of them is in that bottom. Very few is in the top. Great school bus drivers don't just drive, they care for their students. Now, students know if you care about them or not. You know, you don't have to say anything. They know if you like them or if you despise them. Here they are again. They know that. They know that. They pick up on it. Even a child that's slow in learning, they can pick up on if they're liked or not. And it's real important for them to feel, to set that positive. I know there's some that it's really hard to like, but you know, we have to make our best efforts. We have to make our best efforts. I know what, I totally get that there's some kids that are just like, disposable, and they just come to see what they can do to wreak havoc and make your day miserable. And they'll push your buttons once they know you've got buttons to push. And that's not fun. But anyhow, so try to focus and care for the students. Let them know that you care for them. I mean, you can get busy. You're on your route, you're running late, you're blah, blah, blah. And you can overlook that, but you might be the only smile or positive thing that child faces the whole day. They may get in trouble when they get off the bus and are in the principal's office the rest of the day. And it's not good. So you have a more of an impact on these students' lives than you can imagine. Don't ever think, oh, I just drive a bus. What you do is you get them there safely, and you get them there knowing that they're cared for, and that, they care for you and you care for them. And I know we've got people, I talked with this lady right over here, and I don't know her name, but she was just sharing with me about how she loved her students. She said, I can't wait for school to start back. She said, I'm missing my students. And she loves them, and they love her. Now, she's had other routes that may not have had that same story attached to it. She shared with me. She said, I had this other route. And it was not the same way. And you know what I'm talking about. You understand. But thank goodness, I didn't get the chance to talk with each of you individually, but I know you've got one that's looking forward to starting her route and seeing her students. So that's a good thing. Keep going. Just think about your bus route just a little bit. Think about the behaviors that just really make you get aggravated or upset. And it's fine to be aggravated and upset because that's normal, that's natural. You can't be ruled by it. You can't let it make your decisions. But, most people from time to time are going to get upset about something. So, you see some things on there that register home to you on some students that you've involved in the past. When we're coming up with the rules for the bus, you might think about what's one of the reasons that students are written up for bus referrals. Look at some of them would be a starting place. But we're going to talk a little bit about some suggestions that might be able to help you. It won't hurt anything, and we trust that it will be something that will help you. Now, like I said, you pick the students up at their home. You pretty much got your finger on the pulse of what's going on with that child at home. You know if someone just died. You know if maybe one of the parents went to jail. You know if there's big incidences going on at the home from time to time. You are more aware of that than anybody. You're their first contact. Now, the school is equipped with, I'm sure you have counselors in your school to deal with students that have experienced a death in their family or, different things like that, that's support for students. But you are a good support for them too. And if you know of something that the school might need to be aware of that you think they might not be, then it would be good to pop them an email or tell somebody so that word can get to them so that the school's aware of what's going on, because you are going to be more aware of what's going on with that child than anybody, because you deal with them first thing in the morning, last thing of the day. Okay, I've already told you about your school, all your schools participate. They have plans in place that deal with behavior. And if you will come up with just a few things to target for your bus, they can teach those right along at the same time as they're teaching their other procedures for the classroom. And like I said, generally that is the first day of school. Now, another thing too, you want to make sure we know that safety is the very first thing. But you need to expect good behavior out of your students. If they've been brats for 5 years that you call them, expect that this year it's going to be better. What have you got to lose? You know, our expectations that we have on people are tied to our behavior. So it's important to have high or good expectations for every student. Wipe the slate clean. It's a fresh start. It's a new year. As best you can. We're human, but you know, as best you can. Now, there are different ways of building positive relationships. You know, if you're married in here, or if you've been married, husband, wife, there's things you can do to make the situation more positive. There's things you can say or do that can make it go south quick. You know what those things are. It's no different with the students. Think of things that you can do to make the school bus ride a positive experience for that child. Now, one thing is if you get to know your students, you know their names, you can greet them when they get on the bus. Good morning, Johnny, whatever. And a sense of humor helps in anything that we do. You have to kind of keep it in check, especially with middle school and high school students. You don't want to get carried away with the humor, but humor does lighten stuff up a lot of times. So it's always good if you can find humor in something. It helps to not be so aggravated. Now, I said to greet a child. Now, I know in schools, a lot of schools, if you're there first thing in the morning, some teachers, not all teachers, but what I've seen as a best practice, the teacher is standing at the door. Good morning. Good morning. It's so good to see you. We're so glad you're here today. Well, you know, you want it to be real. You don't want it to be like made up. But you could say good morning and call their name if you know their name. If you don't have time to do that, you may or may not, you know, you might not even feel comfortable doing that. If you have a monitor on that school bus with you, the monitor, and these are just ideas I'm throwing out. If they're good, fine. If they're bad, forget them. If you think that wouldn't work for me, then that's okay. But you know what? If it worked for one person, it's worth it. But if you have a monitor on your bus, the monitor could be seated up front or somewhere with a clipboard that had all the students' names if they don't already know them all, and welcome that child to make it feel welcome on your bus. Yeah. You know, if it feels welcome on your bus, good morning. If I was getting on a bus and somebody said, good morning, Shirley, I'd like, well, good morning to you too. You know, so little things. It don't have to be big things. And the other thing, if you don't have a monitor on your bus, it's possible that you have a student that might be mature enough to sit up there and gladly do that for you. But they'd have to be somebody that would be on the bus, you know, that, you know, gets on the bus early so they could greet the other students. But I'm just throwing these out as suggestions. Like I said, if you catch it, fine. If it drops, fine. It's all good. But the thing about it, Rockcastle County is not ignoring the behavior problems that are on school buses. They're not ignoring the fact that behavior on the school bus is important to safety and to overall school performance. It makes your life better. It makes the students' lives better. It helps the principals that deal with these behavior referrals life better. So anything that you can do that would help along those lines, it's all good. Okay? Anybody have any questions of me? Because if you do, well, then I'll answer.
Let's see this clicker up there. Sometimes these clickers won't work. Sometimes they don't. Okay. Proactive management. You can't control everything. You know that. Can't control it. Sometimes in the house, I've got 6 cats in the house. I can't control 6 cats.
I have a hard time with my wife.
I know you were gonna say that. So, proactive management on your bus. Now, as I was telling my mother, when I told her we were doing this training, she said, "Have you ever driven a bus?" "No, Mom, but I'm not going to teach these people how to drive a bus. I'm going to teach them a little bit about bus management." And she kind of gave me one of those, I just don't know if you're qualified to do that or not. But we're going to try to help you get some things figured out. Set clear expectations. Establish your school bus rules at the beginning of the year. Now, I realize I have done bus duty. As Shirley said, I was a special ed teacher. So guess what I got to do most of the time? Duties that nobody else wanted to do. I was either doing morning bus duty, afternoon bus duty, or breakfast duty. Those were my 3 famous duties. So I was usually out there in the rain with my umbrella, standing waving at bus drivers and trying to get kids on bus. You know, that's like kind of herding cats, getting kids on buses sometimes. So we'll talk about the rules, but even the teachers in the classroom need to do this quite often. They need to review rules at the beginning, and I realize if you're like my district, I'm from Laurel County. The first day of school, you have a very small amount of kids on the bus because mama, daddy, mama are bringing them to school, so you don't have everybody. And then again, going back to our principals and stuff, when you pull in there, they don't want you to delay because their phones are ringing, or Mr. Kenneth's phone is ringing, wanting to know, where's my kid's bus? It's 2 minutes late. Where are they? You know, they're panicking. So a lot of times you don't have a lot of time to review these rules. But this is something, again, principals need to know that maybe that afternoon or maybe that morning when you get them there, you've got your rules posted. And I've been trying to think, and I've been on a bus recently, but I'm still trying to think, where can you post those rules that are visible kind of to you and visible to those students? And you need to review them first day of school, however you need to do that. And then, I don't know if you're starting on a Wednesday or Thursday or Friday. I know Laurel County's starting on a Thursday. So if I were in Laurel County, I'd review my bus rules on Thursday. You might want to try it again on Friday. And if you do it in the morning on Thursday before they get off and go into their classrooms, then you might want to do it on Friday afternoon. Then you want to review Monday. And you might skip a few days, and then when your bus feels like it's a little more at capacity, then you might review again. Notice too, you need to review after a snow day, because they forget. You want to review after holidays. And again, you might want to review every Monday. But now, I wouldn't review every Monday for the whole year, I don't think. I would do it for a while and then you could kind of slack off a little bit on reviewing. You want to create a positive environment, just like Shirley said. If you know that child's name, and every one of you in here know your route, and you know that problem student that you have, you know their name definitely. When they walk on the bus, you know if Charlie's the one giving you behavior problems, you know Charlie's name. You know it. There's no doubt who that is. I'd be greeting Charlie every morning when Charlie gets on that bus. Good morning, Charlie. Good to see you. And it might keep Charlie a little settled. I won't guarantee it, but it could. But greet him, or if nothing else, greet him with a smile. Just smile at him. That can disarm some of these kids, especially these middle school, high school kids. You smile at them, what? The bus driver smiled at me this morning. What's wrong with them? You throw them off their game. They don't know what to expect from you anymore. And just try to keep everything positive. And maintain a safe space. Ensure proper seating arrangements. Address disruptive behavior promptly. And I know he gives you a day to keep your buses clean, so keep clean buses and keep them organized. So, effective rules. Positively stated, you don't want negative things. Specific and observable. You know those 12 behaviors that we saw over there earlier? Well, you can't make up rules for all 12 behaviors. You'd be sitting there at the bus stop or at the schools and talking about these 12 behaviors. Well, you can't. Not all of them are even observable. And you want it posted and visible. Okay? So, rules. Take a few minutes. Think about the most common misbehaviors that occur on your bus. I'm going to guess out of seat is number one. So you're probably going to have a rule, everybody in here is, about staying in your seat. And that, I'm assuming in the handbooks that all the kids get also have that kind of rules and stuff in it too. Because some of those rules are in the handbooks. And teachers usually go over those handbooks at the beginning of school. Now, of course, that's the first and last time they ever see or hear those handbooks. So, you might even say, that's in the handbook. They look at you and say, well, I've never heard that rule before. It's in the handbook. It's in the handbook. But now you've got some rules posted in your bus. And you can say, that's my rule. Stay in your seat. That's a rule. I need you to stay in your seat. Assigning seats, I don't know how many of you do that, may be the way to go. And again, throughout the year, you may have to move those assignments around. A lot of times you don't want siblings sitting together. Ooh, I know I wouldn't want my grandkids sitting together on the bus because by the time they got to school, they'd probably kill one another. Okay? Because one wants to boss the other most of the time. And it doesn't always work. Now, only do 3 to 5 rules. Don't do 12 like, you're going to be respectful to me. You're not going to backtalk me. You're not going to do this. You don't want to do that many rules. You want to look at the most important rules that you need to have to drive that bus safely. Okay? Here are some examples, and look how simple they are. And guess what? A lot of these rules the teachers have in their classroom already. Shirley was talking about letting teachers teach your rules. Well, a lot of these rules the teachers already have in their classroom to some degree, like stay in your seat. Well, the teachers kind of have that as a rule that might not be on their posted rules, but they're there. Talk quietly. The PBIS system has voice levels, and there's usually like a 0 voice. That means you're not talking, you're quiet. A level 1 is that you can talk softly between each other. Then there's a level 2, which is a little more like what I'm doing. And then there's, I think, a level 3. I don't know if there's anything above level 3. Level 3 is usually your outdoor voice. Okay? Well, you don't want a level 3 on your bus. You want a level 1. And you might even put that in there because these kids should be knowing what these voice levels are. So you might even say, talk quietly, level 1, or level 1 voice. And that may be something to put up there. and follow directions. Teachers have got that posted in their classroom too, because they want those kids to follow directions. So that's just a few. No, and that's just 3. So you may think, well, yeah, those 3 would work on my bus. All of you may say, well, those 3 would work on my bus. So hey, let's get them up there. This one has 5, and notice there's little picture icons, and it does suggest, this one doesn't have it, but it does suggest that for some children who can't read, your little preschoolers, of course, we know can't read, and you might point it out that that's what those pictures are standing for. Again, 1, sit in assigned seat. 2, use inside voice or use voice level 1. Hands and feet to self. I know I had that in my classroom. Hands and feet to self. Hands and feet to self. Respect a quiet signal. You may have a signal that you want to do. I know in the classroom when I was teaching, we would raise our hands if we needed our students to quieten down, and they knew what that meant. I don't know if the teachers in Rockcastle County use that. That was an old way, but that's elementary teachers. Let me put it this way. Elementary teachers do this. You do this to a middle school, high schooler, and they're looking at you like, what? What are you doing? So, but you may want to develop a signal for your, you know, of course you need to have both hands on the wheel, but I'm just saying. And save snacks for later, which that should be in the handbook, I think, is they're not allowed to eat on the school bus. So that should be on or in the handbook. Here's a couple more. Remain seated. Keep your hands to yourself. And you see those icons are a little more simple. Use your indoor voice, again, level 1, no eating, and obey bus driver. So, you know, some of these you may want to keep, lose a couple, and maybe pick up obey bus driver. Because you are the authority figure on that bus. Okay, it begins and ends with you. And I've moved ahead so much in my slides, I've not kept up with myself. Okay. Oh, let's see. This is what I added. Kenneth, I was telling you about that. I accidentally discovered. Let's see if I can get it. This particular thing last night as I was actually looking up vague rules, because you don't want vague rules in your bus rules. You know, something it's hard to understand, because even I was reading that in the law, there's certain laws that if they're vague, the judge will throw them out. So if you have vague rules on your school bus, a principal, superintendent, transportation director will say, you can't enforce that. That doesn't make sense. So this is actually part of a video series, and I don't have the video. This part did not come with the video, and this is how to control extreme behavior on the bus. So let's see. Okay. I don't know if you can see that well or not. We're going to skip that first part. How extreme behavior can threaten the safety on the school bus. And some of you are probably going to say, I've had this situation. Okay. This begins with students. Oh, thank you. This begins with students throwing a child's hat amongst each other. Now, I know I've been on a school bus as a student, and I have seen that happen, especially with baseball caps and stuff. They'll flip it off, and they'll just start throwing it, and everybody's catching it. Okay, the bus driver was too distracted watching the students throw the hat back and forth to pay attention to the road. The driver's warnings were repeated, and they were ignored, and the extreme behavior began to escalate. Meanwhile, the bus continued heading toward 2 girls dancing on the side of the street. I'm kind of concerned about these 2 girls dancing on the side of the street, to be honest with you. Okay? I'm going, are they at the bus stop waiting? You know, okay. And as the bus approached, the 2 girls quickly moved out of the street to avoid being hit by the bus. Don't want to be in that situation, do you? Not at all. This could have been pretty bad situation. So, extreme behaviors can distract the bus driver and lead to an accident. So 2 important things to remember. Keep your focus on driving the bus, but I know, and I can't figure this out for the life of me, you're driving a bus and you've got about 40 to 60 students on your bus, and there's usually one of you. How are you supposed to keep everybody in check? Drive a bus, and I can get on a soapbox, and I know you all can too, and we can talk about this all day. And just, you know. Maintain control of your students. You are the authority on the bus. You would expect this if you were in the classroom teaching. You are the authority in there, and you would expect control. You expect control on your school bus. Okay? So, keep these 2 points in mind as you follow this procedure. And I'm assuming they can do this, to pull your bus over as quickly as you can, if it warrants that you can get off the road safely. And stop. Don't be like me and forget to put it in park, but get over to the side of the road and put it in park. And once the bus is stopped, then you can deal with that behavior directly and assertively. That doesn't mean you have to be mean. Just don't yell, because when you yell, what starts happening? They get louder, they start yelling back, and that disrespect and all that starts coming out. So if you need, and they use citations, if you need, you can issue, and I call it bus write-up, and let the students know that their extreme behavior will not be tolerated. Not going to happen on my bus. But you can do it in a calm manner. You can do it in a collected manner. That behavior will not be tolerated on this bus. We have to respect each other. So sit down, stop, and if you feel that you need to do a bus write-up, do one. If you think you can handle it, and then you may say, okay, you know, you started it, I'm going to move you to the front of the bus. And if that's all it takes to settle that behavior, do it that way. You might not have to do a bus write-up, and that's okay. Because the principals, assistant principals are going to go, oh, thank you, Lord, because I don't have a bus write-up. The primary duty of the bus driver is the safety of the students. Okay? Now, this one I was kind of going to go over, and this one, I got to thinking about this one. I'll tell you about Jim. Jim's an older student. He goes down the aisle. His friends, of course, you know where older students are going to go. They're going to the back. He's going to the back where his friends are sitting, and I'm Alejandro. He's got to be a 5th grader. He just seems like a 5th grader to me. Okay, Alejandro was sitting in the seat next to Jim's friends. Well, Jim tells Alejandro, get out of my seat. Alejandro says, nope, I was here first. Does that not sound like a 5th grader to you? Nope, I was here first. Standing up, you know. So Jim lifts up Alejandro, slams him across to the other seat, empty seat across from him, and this prompted the bus driver to pull the bus over and intervene. Now, the driver told Jim, you can't do this stuff on the bus, meaning assaulting another student, okay? So, this is what she does. Now, notice there's a lot of she's in this, okay?
I can understand.
Understand what a she's? Okay. And she asked Jim to give Alejandro his seat back. And Jim said, well, I have to sit here. My friends are here. So she goes, Alejandro, are you okay, honey? Yeah, he's fine. Okay, Jim, then you can go ahead and sit in that seat. Alejandro's okay. But if you do this again, I will not tolerate it, okay? So here it just says the driver was wrong. What do you think the driver should have done?
Followed through with having him move.
Right, shouldn't have asked him to start with then with that.
I apologize. He made it there today.
Now, this goes on through, and it does say that she should have had him sit in a seat that was empty. Okay, I agree with that. She should have asserted her authority and said, I'm not going to do this. And it said here, issue the citation or the bus ride up to him if she thinks so. I'm gonna say this to you, and probably the principal and Mr. Kenneth will back me up on this one. Alejandro says, I'm fine. But you know, if a big old boy takes a kid and slams him up against the side of the bus, you know, the other side of the bus, what more than likely is gonna happen? What could Alejandro have on his body?
Bruises.
Bruises.
And Alejandro's thinking, well, I'm not gonna speak against him, he's gonna do it again.
Right. 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 So, my thought is, you ride up Jim. Now, I think, and, you know, Jim is probably a middle school, high school student. We don't know that. Alejandro, against that little fifth grader I'm talking about. So I would let the elementary principal, if they're out there when you drop these kids off, know what happened. And you're not going to write Alejandro up. He didn't do anything wrong. But I'm going to let that principal know.
Alejandro would have been done something wrong on my bus because he wouldn't have been sitting back there with his older kids if he was in fifth grade.
Okay.
I'm
Yeah.
just,
But like I say, in this scenario,
yeah,
I-
we don't know, but
right. But I would definitely tell the principal about the incident. Because what happens when Alejandro goes home tonight? Mama's or grandma or whomever the caregiver is sees the bruises and asks Alejandro about it, and he tells them what happened. And guess who's getting a phone call either that night or that morning first thing? I know two people in here. Yep, two people in here. Maybe even, sometimes they don't follow those chains of command. Superintendent's getting a call. What happened to the kid that threw my kid against the other side of the bus? So you want to safeguard yourself. Principal knows. You broke Jim up and you've turned it in to the middle school, high school. And to me, that just keeps your feet out of hot water. Okay, so I kind of disagree with this on this, but it said it intervened immediately, so I think, you know, you all got a lot of experience now. And this one is Carl decides to shake things up. Woohoo! You know, he's got firecrackers left over from the 4th of July. And Carl gets on your bus and he lights it up and throws it. Now, I don't know how you all gonna react, but, you know. Well, driver asked, who set off the firecracker? Guess what? The whole bus goes, Carl. Carl did. So she moves Carl to the front row of the bus. I think that was a good move on her or his behalf. And then she's already called in. She's already told Carl. I don't know how many of you had radios, but she's already called ahead, told the principal, I'm bringing Carl in, and you better meet me here at this bus, because this is what Carl did. So she's already told Carl, hey, look, somebody's meeting you when we get there. And the principal meets, and he talks to Carl, and the principal supports the driver's interventions. So, and then you might want to have other people talk to Carl, because Carl's got some issues, okay? So we'll go on. And this one, I don't know how often happens. Oh, no, I told it. Well, this one is being that proactive. You've got Bonnie, a 14-year-old girl who's never given you a moment problem. She's not a problem in school. She's not a problem on the bus. She's been a great kid the whole time she's been going to school. She's had friends, she's been engaged, and in the past few weeks, something's changed at home. And her behavior has changed. And a female student enters the bus and wants to sit next to Bonnie. Bonnie tells her she can't sit next to her. And she said, the girl says, why? Bonnie says, I'm having a bad day with my mother. I don't have one with you too. So then Bonnie stood up and shoved the girl across the aisle on the other side. Hopefully nobody's had anything like this happen. So what you may want to do, this may not be a bus ride up but you may want to talk to Bonnie, but be aware that at Bonnie's age, she does not want to talk to you, more than likely. And then try to talk to maybe one of Bonnie's friends to see if they know anything's going on. And if that friend confides in you, then you want to tell the principal. You want to tell other people at school and contact them. And if you find out that it's abuse, it is your responsibility to report that abuse. I'm sure you've been trained on that. It is your responsibility, and make sure you report to that principal and that the principal follows up on that. And since you were talking about field trips and sports trips, Jeff is a sophomore and he is an all-star basketball player. And he goes and gets on the bus and he starts smoking. Well, you pull the bus over, you take his lighter, you take his cigarettes, and tell Jeff you're going to write him up. And he said, well, I'll just see what my coach has to say about that. So the coach then calls the principal's office and tells the principal that if Jeff can't ride the bus, he can't get to practice. He can't get to practice. He can't play in the big game. So the principal decides to give Jeff a break and let him continue to ride the bus. Jeff gets on the bus like nothing has happened and goes about his day. So what do you think is going to happen to the other kids on the bus when they see that this has happened?
They're all gonna wanna do it.
They're all going to want to do it. Why should I follow the rules if he doesn't have to follow them? So I hope you like these scenarios. I hope none of these scenarios have happened on your bus. Let's see if I can get back to real quickly wrapping this up. Okay, the escalation techniques, these are more for you than the student. Take calm, deep breaths and maintain a professional demeanor. Listen to the student's feelings and validate their concerns. Use I statements. See, I see you're upset. Don't accuse the student of doing whatever you may have seen them do, but just say, I saw you do this on the bus. Why? What happened there? What's going on? Tell me about it. And even the other student, you may do the same thing. Ask them, what happened? And keep it as light as you can. Don't, like I say, don't yell, don't scream, don't get mad. And sometimes I know it's hard because you may have even had some issues going on at home that, of course, sometimes we bring with us when we get to work. So try to tamp that down and work with these kids as positively as you can, and then present options for resolving the situation constructively. And consequences and communication, follow through, document those serious incidences, and communicate with parents and schools.
I'll take just a second before you show this. You'll love this. It's so good. When you we have to have these evaluations, sorry, but it just, we have to have them. But when you get it complete, if you'll raise your hand, then I'll bring your certificate to you.
You may need an ink pen or anything. Look like most of you've got one, but I got some extra pens if you do need it.
Okay. This is showing love to bus drivers.
School Barnesville, how can I help you? Oh, hey, Miss Thompson, how are you? You're not very good. What seems to be the problem today? Your child got suspended off the bus. Yeah, that is true. She's suspended off the bus for 5 days. Why is she suspended off the bus for 5 days? Well, what did the referral say? Yeah, that's right. She cussed at the bus driver. She's constantly getting out of her seat. She's causing safety issues on that bus. So she is off the bus for 5 days. How are you going to get her to school? I do not know. That is not my problem. You know what you should have done when she got the first 2 referrals? You should have dealt with it at home. Yeah, that's right. There were no consequences for her on those 2 referrals. I talked to her both days afterwards, and you did nothing. She went out that weekend. She still on her video games, and she still got her cell phone. So there were no consequences for her behavior on the bus, and so now there are consequences for her behavior on the bus. She ain't gonna be riding that bus. What are you supposed to be doing? Parenting. Yeah, it's a verb. So in 5 days, you will bring her to a bus stop, have her apologize to the bus driver, and she can get back on the bus. But in the meantime, you've got to find a way to get her to school, because riding the bus is a privilege, not a requirement, and she has lost that privilege for 5 days. All right, we'll see you in 5 days. All right, talk to you later. Good Lord. School burns
I tell this one, my son, when he went to middle school first year, their assistant principal got on the bus and they were having behavior issues and he got on there and gave it. The school bus is a privilege. You know, it's not a rite of passage. You don't have to ride the school bus to get to school. So I always thought that was funny. Conclusion, you make the difference. You can make or break these kids day one. And your skills and professionalism have a significant impact on these kids. And again, we're talking about role model on your school bus. Again, you know, I know you may come in having a hard time, maybe something's going on at home, but try to keep that maybe just in the back of your mind and not let it affect what you're doing there on the bus. And we're here to support you. Your transportation department people are here to support you. The school administration, I'm sure, is here to support you. And we at the Southeast South Central Co-op are also here to provide you with resources and support. And as we were telling, Kenneth, that we have modules on our website. That's the website, and I don't know if you have it on the end of your, because I redid this one. But our website has modules, and we have a bus behavior management that's a little different than this one. This is what our website looks like. Go to menu, and there's an on-demand learning modules, and if you're a classified staff, like you're an assistant, we also have a lot of modules for you all, so you can go there. And we also have a second place. We have professionals and other classified staff, and this is what we have. And let me see if I can find the bus, because somehow it got on here as a different heading. Managing behavior on the school bus. This is our opening page. You sign in, and then that's what it looks like. So it's similar to what we've done, but we don't have the scenarios in there and that kind of stuff. So it's a pretty decent one. We didn't know though if you all would appreciate the real cutesy stuff, so we kind of redid it. Anything I can clarify for you? Any questions? If so, ask Kenneth. Let's do the bus. Ask Kenneth.
All right, any questions or anything
Yes.
for them before they?
Well, not for them. Well, it's in general.
Okay.
It still has in.
Sure.
So when they were talking, you know, the whole, which I know I've been inside with cafeteria and stuff, so I've seen them do it on the field trips or some of the class at like Broadhead. But when we're trying to follow a disciplinary thing, is there a, like, if we want to incorporate something like they do in school, like for the younger ones, the color change and stuff, how can we find out what their guidelines are for it? You know what I'm saying? Like, do we just catch a younger group teacher and be like, hey, so how do you all, you know, what guidelines do you follow to then be able to change their color? Or is there a way that the principals can kind of be like, because I mean, of course, it's going to be different middle school and high school, but they still have something.
Right. And that would be, again, catch this guy sometime, you could have that conversation with him, so those teachers that are out there, could mention that to them. Let me give you one though. I was at a conference this summer, And here's one that they mentioned to me, and they said it worked. I was kind of skeptical, but they swore that it worked. Instead of raising their hand and try to get your kids' attention and know they're supposed to be quiet, a lot of them said they just turn on their lights. And it seems odd to me that would work during the school day, during the daylight hours, but they said they did. The kids recognized when the light came on. They knew that was the same thing as holding up the hand, and they were supposed to quiet down and be quiet.
And you might have to teach that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, which, cause I
Absolutely.
thought about it, cause I know one who that's what she did,
Mhm.
and it seemed to do really well for her.
Right.
And I've been trying to think of a way to, instead of having to constantly be like, be quiet tracks or whatever.
Yeah.
With that, I didn't know how it might work in daylight, but then I was just wondering, like, when it comes to actually getting onto them for whatever it is, at what point do you determine, well, that's a color change, or, whatever you're doing to, like, say from point A to point B, and now C is, we've got to go talk to,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
And that is kind of hard to do.
That's gonna have to be your call.
Mhm.
I mean,
And it can vary from driver to driver, where your line is might be different than where somebody else's line is. And I'm sure that's what they deal with in the classroom.
I just wanted
Things
to
I
know
think run
guideline
into
wise.
there's the ride on the bus is totally different, like a teacher may use. Mr. Hopkins may be talking over here and use proximity, just walk over, but,
Right.
so a lot of those things in the classroom is not gonna work on a bus.
right.
So, and like we have a PBIS behavioral flow chart I could give you, but it's gonna be totally overwhelming because it doesn't apply to what's on the bus. So there's things like that. But now we do have our teachers talk to the kids, all of them now. I don't know if it does any good about
No, you've heard
behavior
it.
on the bus every year. So we have, Mr. Hawkins sends us the thing and we share that with the teachers, and teachers go over bus riding rules and regulations and
Right.
everything in the classroom.
But the voice levels is something that they use in the classroom.
Yeah, I started doing that one this past year.
Easily incorporate that into that too. So,
If y'all wanna listen to me, at the tracks, if you're having trouble, for years I've had what I call as a track monitor. And right before we get to the track, they holler, we're at the tracks. You can ask Vicky, she's been my monitor before.
I've been your sub.
And they holler, we're at the tracks, and they all be quiet. They know to be quiet. And,
So you just let a student,
I was,
Just like
well,
pays
at one
attention?
point in time, this little boy I said, we're gonna all, decide who can be our track monitor. So we have people that ask to do it. So we let them try out, and they voted. And this one little boy started when he was in the 3rd grade. He graduated last year or something. So we have a new one this year. They all voted again for that track monitor. So when we get to the tracks, she hollers, we're at the tracks, and they all get really quiet. Each track, and I go over both of them right after the other.
right.
So it works, if you all wanna try it.
It does work. It's
Well,
exciting for you, and I'm
Yep.
like, what's that?
We used to have a list of rules, bus rules on the buses. Some reason or another, they got lost in the,
Yeah.
I guess in paperwork, but.
Yeah.
How come we don't have those anymore? I always
Thank
felt
you,
like
Bobby.
at least the kids knew what they were expected on the bus.
Yeah.
That was gonna be a conversation, to be honest with you.
Yeah, yeah. And I've had a lot of people over the years that have mentioned that to me, and I usually just make them copies. I just, whoever feels like they needed them, they wanted them, I've made them copies, and I've laminated them and given them out copies. So if you want a copy, just let me know, and I'll make those for you.
They had stickers to go on the back.
You have to be real careful because, the legalities of it, if it's supposed to be part of that bus originally. That's why the original bus rules were up there. So now, do we waver from that a little bit? Yeah, probably. But I've given those bus rules to people, and what they do with them from there, it's kind of up to them.
I was gonna print them off like sign letters, just put them on the inside of the windshield, that way they don't see.
Inside the windshield, yeah. Just cover up the window.
How about right in front of your?
Yeah.
I would like a second.
Hey, just remind me.
She said she would.
You don't see the kids that.
All right.
Alright,
Thank you all.
thank you, appreciate it. Okay, I'm gonna move on.
I'm in trouble.
Next thing, this is active shooter. This is the video that we have to watch. I'm gonna hit play on it. Let's just get it going, then we'll talk about it a little bit at the end.
Who we got?
It's over now.
On behalf of Governor Andy Beshear and the Justice and Public Safety Department, I want to thank you for all that you do to prepare the children for Commonwealth for your future. One of the critical responsibilities that we have is to ensure the safety of our schools and the children in our care. We at the Department of Criminal Justice Training have partnered with the Kentucky Center for School Safety, the Kentucky Department of Education, and the Kentucky State Police to provide this training that will show you how to prepare for and what to do if an active shooter event takes place at your school. Over the next hour, you will hear content presented from several experts in the fields who have worked hard to identify the information that you need to know to stay safe. If you are a seasoned educator, most of this information will be a refresher for you. For those of you who are new to the field, we hope this training will help you understand the elements that you need to create your plan. I encourage everyone to take this training and build upon it, working together with your staff to create, practice, and commit to memory solid plans of action in case of the unnatural. The School Safety and Resiliency Act was passed in 2019, and the Senate Bill 8 was passed in 2020. Both of those laws are directly related to safety and security in schools. The School Safety and Resiliency Act is a very well-rounded bill that includes not only access control and hardware, but also directly dealing with students' mental and physical well-being within schools. This video was to talk about response to active shooter. The School Safety and Resiliency Act is not a active shooter bill. That's just one very small part of it. There are several things within the bill that are not only to teach us how to respond to an active shooter, but also to recognize people that are may become active shooters. We need to recognize, our kids' mental well-being, physical well-being, and there's several things in the bill for that. This particular video, though, is to talk about response to an active shooter. The first thing that we want to talk about in response to the active shooter are the mandates that are set forth for the security of our buildings. We call that access control. Following those access control mandates can assist us in response to an active shooter. The first thing is we've got to keep that active shooter out of our building. We look at it as a layered approach, and I think a lot of people don't understand why we ask, or should I say mandate, to have certain doors closed or check-in processes, but you've got to think of your school as a layered approach. The exterior doors, making sure those are locked. That's the first layer of security. Having an entrance where everybody goes in the same entrance when you have to do a check-in process. You have electronic locking door. We don't let anybody in until we know why they're there. Once we're there, we find out, who they are, and we give them a pass before we even let them in with their students. And then that last layer of protection, most importantly, is the interior doors closed and locked during instructional time. But all around the United States, everybody agrees the same thing. It's the safest place for our students or staff are behind a locked door. In the state of Kentucky, that's law, and we have to follow that, and there's good reason for that. So that's our first layer of response to active shooters, keeping them away from us and keeping us safe in that aspect. Our students know when they feel safe and when they don't. We may not, but they do. They constantly are looking, they're constantly aware of their safety. I have a story of being told about some students that were from a different school, and they were at my daughter's school, and there's a vestibule at my daughter's school, and they didn't have a vestibule at their school, and they were overheard by the principal talking about how kids must feel really safe in this building. So that tells me that they are constantly looking at where they're at in their surroundings, and if they're feeling safe or they're not. And they know that the doors need to be locked. They know need to be behind locked doors. They know that exterior doors don't need to be propped open. And we've got to watch that as safety professionals, as teachers, and as principals, to know where our kids are at with safety and how comfortable they're going to be. Getting with students when it comes to planning your active shooter drills, or practices, I should say. Find out what they are afraid of and incorporate that into your drills. And again, that's how we're working on responding to an active shooter. By law, the School Safety and Resiliency Act requires that you watch response to an active shooter drill, or should I say response to an active shooter video that's an hour long every year. That's the video you're watching right now. You are not going to learn everything that you need to know about active shooter or response to active shooter in an hour. What this video will do will spark conversation on how to respond to an active shooter within your own building. Not only your own building, but other buildings that you may be in. But you have to sit down as a group and you have to discuss what we're going to do. Let's talk about different locations. If you're in your classroom and it's during instructional time and your door's already locked, there's things that you need to do. If you're in the hallway, how are you going to respond? Where are those kids going to go? Where are you going to go? If you're out on the playground and then there's an active shooter in the building, you're not going back in the building, so where do you need to go? Let's talk about even cafeteria. You know, now your students are in the cafeteria. The cafeteria workers are going to be responsible for safety. Do they know what they need to do if there's an active shooter and where those kids need to go? If you're going to put them in the kitchen, will all those kids fit in that kitchen? Do we need to go somewhere else? We all have to talk about what our plans are, because one school's plan will not work for another school. It has to be your school's plan, because every school is different. Every lunch hour is different. You have to make sure that your plans are in place, because when stress hits, you will go back to what you planned. If you haven't planned anything, your brain will not know where to go. So you have to have those plans. I know bus drivers, appreciate them so much. They're the first people that see kids every day. They're the first person, the kid, when they get on the bus, that's the first adult interaction. When we talk about response to active shooter, you know, if a kid's not feeling good or is upset or there's something wrong, that bus driver's going to know. You know, that bus driver needs to, get that out to the schools and say, I don't think so-and-so's feeling good today or not, because you're the first response. But you also need to know what to do if you do have an active shooter. Let's say you have an active shooter in your school, and there's a lockdown. Or what if there's a situation where you have a lockdown at your school, you have a bus full of kids? You're not going to want to drop those kids off to a school that has a lockdown. What's your plan? Are you going to go to another school? There should be radio communication, but if that plan's already in place, we don't have to come up with something. We know what we need to do. We know where we need to take our kids. And you're going to feel a lot better and more confident in yourself if you have those plans. So I'll tell you right now, in this hour, you're not going to figure everything out, but it's going to spark that conversation to get everything figured out. That's why you have consultation with your first responders. You have consultation with your kids. Not only what you need to do, but what your kids need to do as well.
That an active shooter situation is an individual who is actively trying to kill or cause physical injury to someone that takes a large amount of victims and is ongoing when law enforcement arrives. That's how we classify what an active shooter is. So it's different from what people may respond to initially, but with it ongoing in a large number of victims is really what makes it what we classify as an active shooter. Typically, active shooters that we have seen so far last 3 to 8 minutes. What we have seen, use for example Sandy Hook. Sandy Hook was done in roughly 3 minutes of time. Here in our own state, we had one that lasted probably no more than 8 minutes. So that typical 3 to 8 minutes. And then according to FBI statistics that we pulled up from 2013, 66% of the active shooter incidents were over in 5 minutes or less. This from the beginning of the shots to when the shooter is done shooting. Doesn't include the law enforcement response time, because that's going to be very time consuming and doing searches of the schools. But what's going to happen is that initial action of the shooter takes that 3 to 8 minutes.
And a lot of it's going to be dependent on how prepared that school is. If a school is very prepared, they're locking doors, they have very good lockdown procedures in place, that active shooter situation can last, a very short duration of time based upon being prepared, making sure that all the students are prepared, kind of building a software package where the kids know if something happens, they know exactly how to act and when to act, and that can mitigate whether students are students or if they're victims. You're gonna hear obviously a lot of loud noises. They may be misconstrued as balloons being popped or firecrackers, but we have to be programmed to know if we hear those things that aren't normal to hear throughout the school day, it's better to err on the side of caution and go ahead and get to a lockdown procedure. So you're gonna hear things like gunfire. You may hear screaming, especially if this person hasn't been dead or they're trying to get back at people. You're gonna hear a lot of things that just aren't normal to the school day is what you're gonna hear.
The shooter themselves, they're looking for large areas. They're going to look for a spot where they can find the most targets of opportunity for them. What they are looking for is a high casualty count. They are looking for easy access to people. When they're going through things, they want the path of least resistance. They want where they can go to get what they want out of that done. So they're looking for that easiest piece to get to, so.
You know, we're pushing, obviously it's law, but we're pushing on, the teachers to lock the doors during periods of instruction. Well, we know based on data, based upon prior events that's happened, not just in the US, but across the world, across the globe, where active shooters are looking, like Brian said, looking for the path of least resistance. We've noticed that if a door is closed, they're not really filling on that door to see if they can make entry. They are looking for easy, highly visible targets to be able to make them victims. So that's one of the things that obviously we're pushing is for teachers to lock the doors during periods of instruction. That way we can go ahead and we can stop this from happening. We can the shooter moves on to the next point, and hopefully they have no victims or to be found, and they just leave the premises.
Extensive research has shown that locked doors do save lives. In the event of an active shooter situation, the things that we can do prior to an event unfolding really is going to save us time moving forward. We've seen that active shooters are looking for victims, people that are in the open, and rarely do they take the time to try to get into a locked door. What we're really looking for is the additional time to keep people safe until law enforcement arrives. Many of these instances in active shooter situations, they occur very rapidly, and just those small details can save lives. One of the other reasons that we like the doors to be locked, we've talked to teachers who say, well, I carry a key and I can lock the door. But unfortunately, in a high-stress situation, many of the fine motor skills are lost, and that can be grabbing a specific key, entering it into a key slot, and turning that lock. We don't want to have teachers have to go through this. So as you can imagine, fine motor skills versus major motor skills is what we're looking for. And if you can keep that door locked, you can keep your students safe.
There's no real profile for a school shooter. There are some commonalities that we've heard about and has been reported, such as unlocked firearms in a home, kids who have a propensity for violence, kids who have maybe a mental health issue going on, possibly suicidal. We also know that kids sometimes, would-be shooters, would share information long before they actually do this. And these are not random acts of violence. These are well planned. And so for a school teacher to be able to pick it up like that might be a difficult situation, but this is where we need to get parents involved with some of the things that they might be seeing at home as far as those things are concerned. So it's important to understand that. And there's a connection on this whole thing about relationships. We want the teachers and the kids to have a good, working, harmonious relationship. Now, that being said, if a would-be perpetrator would be sharing that information with a peer, we would hope that peer would go to his or her teacher and say, I'm hearing something, or at least get on our tip line that's sponsored by the Homeland Security folks here in our state that'll give us a heads up on something that we could possibly avert some kind of shooting like that.
Let's talk about school resource officers. Within the last 4 years, we have more campuses than we ever have with SROs assigned. Your SRO is going to be an expert in response to an active shooter. Now, that SRO is going to be responding differently than you, but you need to make sure that when you put your planning together that your SRO is involved. They're going to be doing their own thing, but you need to know what's going on and what you need to do. I hope right now that there is a room full of teachers around you and staff watching this. If not, you need to have your group that you work with every day talking about your plans for active shooter. If you have questions, get with your SRO. They're going to explain what's going to happen and how it happens. If you don't have an SRO, you need to have your local first responders talking about your plans. Even with an SRO, that's one person or two people in your schools. They're going to have backup to come in, and you need to make sure that you address any questions that you have to your first responders And there is no stupid question. Ask them. If you're fearful of something, if you have questions about it, we need to get those questions out right now as a plan before something happens. We hope it never does, but we have to have that plan in place. But remember, lean on your SRO. That's why they're there. They're there as a counselor. They're there as a mentor. They're there as a teacher. But first and foremost, they're there as a protector, and they are your response to an active shooter, your first response to an active shooter.
One of the most critical things for teachers and administrators and anybody who's on the school grounds on a regular basis and in the care of children is having a plan. And we talked about that last year in the video. We can't emphasize that enough. It's that when-then thinking. It's the same thing we teach police officers. And unfortunately, as I said last year, now we got to get into the schools and we got to get our teachers, administrators, we got to work together. We got to collaborate. That's a term I borrow from teachers. They use it all the time, and we've got to be more effective in that in terms of saying, hey, here's what we do to handle the most stressful situations that there are in society. And for police officers and teachers alike, being situationally aware is going to be critical. And it's going to be something, a lot of teachers and principals, they do it naturally now with everything that's happened in our world. But I think now more than ever is just having that plan. Coming into the school from different exits and entryways, and knowing, you know, if you're in the lunchroom, if you're on the playground, if you're on the athletic field, knowing those areas very well and knowing that if something happens at that particular point, when you hear those sounds, gunfire, and a lot of people, I can't emphasize enough, and I think if most of the teachers or anybody looks back over the course of our history that this has been happening, people will say, was that balloons? Was that gunfire? Because it's hard for us to truly get in our heads that this is actually happening here. Well, while you're doing that, those are precious seconds. So that happened very quickly, but when you're in that time frame, when the world's crashing down around you and you're seeing things that you never should have seen in the first place, that's going to seem like an eternity. So when we talk about having a plan, it's critical that, you know, for police officers, for teachers, to have that plan in terms of knowing what to do with these students, how to do it, to even think outside the box depending upon the environment that they're in. You know, as far as strongholds in the schools, or picking one point to go to over another, like in bathrooms. We know that bathrooms, it's better than standing out in the hallway, but most of these bathrooms are unlocked. They don't have them where they can lock. So if you can pick a classroom over a bathroom, you're much better off. But you got to think ahead. And we know that teachers have mitigated the killings in some of the actions that they've taken in these schools. And in one of the FBI studies, they talked about, they made the comment about active shooting situations, and they talked about the active part of it. And they made a really good statement. I think it's worth repeating here. You know, the active implies that school administrators and teachers and counselors and whoever may be on that school grounds, maybe civilians and police officers, they can impact the outcome of what happens. That, don't take that to mean that they should all fight. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about what Ben said before about those layers of protection and putting those things in place beforehand. And it gives them time to think and time to react, time to protect those kids. Can't stress it enough. It's situational awareness. It's knowing where you are, you know, anytime, or being aware of where you are. Let me state that, being aware of where you are anytime you're in that building, especially in those areas, those common areas where the kids are gathering in the morning or the afternoons. We know from studies that a lot of times that's when these shootings occur. And I think that's one of the toughest places to be. So teachers have to be much more proactive, much more deliberate about thinking, hey, if this breaks loose, I'm going to grab as many kids as I can, and we're going here. We're getting out of the line of fire. In one school over in Scotland, the killer entered the school through an unlocked door. He had a plan. He even put earmuffs on. You know, and I often think, what would have happened if some teacher who was situationally aware looked out and said, hey, there's somebody walking toward our school with earmuffs on. You know, that's a clue. It's out of the norm. That's what I'm talking about in terms of situationally aware. But so to get back to my point, he gets back inside. These kindergarten students are being escorted to the gym by their teacher. And one of the things they did, they just dropped down. You know, so he starts shooting and they just dropped down. They didn't There was no plan because nobody had ever thought, this was back in, I think, 1996, nobody really thought about these things happening in school. So they just dropped down to the floor. They did what human beings do naturally without any training. That's that orientation behavior. We actually turn toward the threat and we crouch. And you'll see that in explosions and things like that that happen out in society. And we almost got to retrain ourselves to move first, get some cover, and ask questions later. And that's more like the animal kingdom. You know, if you ever watch the cat, if something happens, you see a cat that's scared, that cat jumps first, runs, and then you'll see him peek back around. That's, you know, that's the world's perfect predator there. But human beings were not hardwired like that. So we got to teach ourselves to act differently under these circumstances.
Something important when you're planning the drill for your classroom is to make it age appropriate. Of course, for younger students, you're going to keep the vocabulary very simple, what they understand. You don't want it scary for them. In fact, when you're talking about lockdown with them, tell them you're doing a lockdown practice than a lockdown drill, because they really may not even understand what a drill is. I think also something that's very important, and not just for the younger students, but also for the middle and high school, is to design a letter that goes home to parents to let them know, number one, you're doing a lockdown drill and when you're doing that drill. Number two, why you're doing the drill. And also to ask them to talk to their students when they get home and get their feedback about how they thought the lockdown drill went that day. Because sometimes the students don't want to talk to the teachers and they will talk to their parents, and the teachers need that feedback on how they think the drill went so they will know how to use it in a debrief and to make their drills even better. And that can also work with middle school and high school students as well, even though, of course, at that age, you can have more in-depth discussion with middle school and high school and even maybe do some writing prompts. Okay, by law, you know that 2 lockdown drills are supposed to be performed in the school year. One the first 30 days of school and one in January. And of course, you're not held to doing just those 2. You can do more. I always suggest do them as often as you feel comfortable doing the drills. I always think that for example, a fire drill, you do that unconsciously. You know what to do when you hear the drill. You pick up your notebook, you pick up your walkie-talkie, you do the things. You kind of do them unconsciously. You should be able to do a lockdown drill the exact same way. And if you're not feeling as comfortable with lockdown drills as you are a fire drill, then maybe you want to consider doing them more often. And what you need to do is plan your lockdown drill. So, and those are just individual. I always suggest using a couple of really good resources that are free on the Kentucky Center for School Safety's website. One is a discussion point sheet that's for all grades, and you go through that and you can see how to build the lockdown drill for your classroom. Also, especially for elementary grades, there is an elementary school lockdown workbook that's very beneficial, mainly geared to elementary schools, but it's also good for middle schools and high schools just to pick up a few points. I think one of the most important things you do when you're building that is to collaborate with other teachers and other administrators and with your school resource officer, your state schools coordinator, and other first responders to get that drill right for your classroom. When you're designing your lockdown drills, of course, it's always important to take into consideration your special needs population, whether it be physical disabled students or mentally disabled students, or it could be just a student that is highly sensitized to trauma or who has experienced some trauma in the past. Those things need to be looked at, and you need a plan for those. And you may have a bunch of individual little components in your plan that deal with those students, because not all classrooms are alike, not all students are alike, and it's really important that we individualize those plans for those students. And also important to remember is making sure that if you have a sub in your class, that they have that information as well. Because it's going to be nerve-wracking enough if a sub is in your room and they actually call a lockdown, much less do a drill. It's good to give them as much information as you possibly can. There's always strength in numbers, and when you're planning your drills, it's good to talk to other teachers. Get together with your other pods, your other grade levels, your other departments, and talk about different scenarios and how you're going to do things. Also keep in mind, as I said earlier, about subs, making sure subs have that information. Also think about what are you going to do if there's a lockdown and you're not in your classroom for whatever reason. You ran to make some copies or you ran to do this or that. You need to make sure that there's a plan for that because that can easily happen. You also need to keep in mind when you're thinking about different scenarios, do you know what you're going to do if they call a lockdown when you're in the cafeteria, when you're in the library, when your children are in the restroom, when they're with you or not with you, escorted, or when they're in a transition time? Those things need to be addressed and you need to have a plan for those things because more than likely it's going to happen during that time. And I think sometimes we think we plan this, but it's also so important for the students to know what the plan is as well. Because if you're not in the classroom and a lockdown occurs, you want to be able to know that your students know what to do and feel confident about that. I think sometimes we overlook the importance of having debriefing when we do a drill. Debriefing, what that is to talk about how the drill went so that you can improve on what you're doing the next time. And there's so many ways that you can get information to do a debriefing. You can talk to your other teachers, talk to your students, find out what they think went well, get that feedback from the parents that you sent home with those letters. Use all that information. Have SROs or your school safety coordinator, have them observe the drill and get feedback from them, and then go back and improve that drill. It's really important that you use that debrief. I think a drill isn't complete until you do a debriefing. The letters that you send home to the parents that give you that feedback, which is so valuable, also what it does is it also helps your parents be connected, helps them be informed. Believe me, they're very scared about doing lockdown drills and if a lockdown happens in their school. So the more that you can involve them, the more comfortable they're going to feel and the more trusting they are of you having their children throughout the day. Something we really don't talk about a lot is teachers projecting calm when a situation happens in the school. Teachers know that, or they should know that however they respond to a situation is how your students are going to respond. If you're calm, they're going to act and feel calm. If you're hysterical and frightened, they're going to be scared. So it's really important that we try to be calm as we can. And you wonder, well, how can we be calm during a lockdown? You know, when we're going through all these things, when we're barricading the doors, when we're doing all these things. The only thing I can suggest that might help is to make sure that you do your drills and you do them often enough that you feel comfortable with them. Because when a lockdown occurs, fight or flight is going to kick in, and you're not going to have the cognitive awareness to go through, okay, this step I do this step I do this. It needs to be almost second nature. Like right now, if there was a fire drill, we kind of know what to do. We've done it so many times, we do it once a month. But with lockdown drills, we don't feel as comfortable. So if you don't feel as comfortable with a lockdown drill as you would do a fire drill, maybe you need to do a few more just to feel that comfortable.
So we never want to talk to students about active shooter drills. That's only for staff. So with students, regardless of their developmental stage, grade they're in, we always want to put this in the context of a lockdown drill. So in case of any type of emergency. So as similar as we practice for tornadoes and fire drills, we want to practice lockdown drills for any type of emergency. And so doing this with, you know, regular practice, very clear communication, the practice over time will help give them a sense of confidence and support them in terms of not feeling the extreme anxiety that some students feel when we talk about, you know, very difficult and scary things, and particularly for the younger students, but also middle and high school students. Based on their experience, the communities they live in, these things can, be very scary and induce some traumatic stress. So I think it's really important that we make sure that we are talking with the students in terms of we're practicing for emergencies. And I think also regardless of age, regardless of grade, that, you know, the teacher is always communicating their job is to help keep the students safe. And all of this happens in the context of a, you know,
a relationship that has hopefully already been established. With all content, it's so critical that, you know, we have cultures that allow for vulnerability, for people to share their fears, and because, I mean, that's a critical part of the plan, you know, that people are able to process this. And again, I think having the law enforcement involved in the planning, that can cultivate a sense of calm and security. And absolutely having the mental health professionals, the counselors, you know, involved in the process is going to be really key.
The biggest thing is trying to get somewhere where you can try to lock that door behind you. That's the number one best option. If you can't get there, at least get out of sight. You get somewhere that you can hide, and you would really have, somebody would really have to look for you to find you. But one of the things that I've seen being in schools is a lot of teachers leave their doors open during planning periods. With that, the door being open, if something does happen, those students, other teachers, other faculty members having another place they could escape to, be able to close that door and be behind a locked door, which is great. If they're maybe stuck in the bathroom, if that door is lockable, close that door and lock the door behind you. If you are stuck in a bathroom and you can't lock the door, even getting into a stall, standing up on a toilet and locking the door, those are all options you have. But the number one option is obviously getting into a room, has a lockable door, being able to put down the shade over the window, get into the blind corner, and be able to wait and be silent. That will be the number one option. But within each school is going to have different options for them to be able to go into. The biggest thing is having those options already prepared prior to. For us in law enforcement, one of the things we do is we do crisis rehearsal. If this happens, I'm going to do this. If this happens, I'm going to do that. So look around your school. Hey, if I'm here, I can go here. If I'm here, I can go here, and constantly write that software package of knowing if something goes wrong, I know I have this as plan A and this is plan B and so on and so forth.
The only thing I'll add to that is part of that software package is if the teacher isn't planning, they hear something, simply go look. I'm not saying go search the school. I'm not saying, leave your hallway. Simply, maybe look out into the hallway and see if there is somebody out there that needs guidance in where they need to go. As we know, again, under stress, people kind of do some things that they wouldn't typically do in a normal everyday environment. And depending upon the school and the age frame of who's involved, you may need to give them physical guidance. You may take them by the hand and lead them in there, or if it's an older school or older children in the school, then they know where they need to go. But having that adult presence or that teacher presence in the hallway may simply give them a little bit extra guidance on where they go, and then realize, hey, I can get in this room and it can be safe.
The biggest thing is trying to get out of sight. Whether you're hiding, and then if you can hide and move to a different position. One of the things that we push in law enforcement is looking for a better point of cover. When I say cover, that means something that's going to protect me from becoming a victim or a casualty. With that, if you're on the playground, if you're on the football field, it may just going back to the run, hide, fight scenario. You running as far as fast as you can to an area where you can hide, and then hopefully you can move to a different area and eventually balance to a point where you can get behind the locked door. But in those scenarios, we know that there's not many advantages for the folks who are on the different end of this thing. But the biggest thing is trying to get out of sight. If we can get out of sight as fast as possible and hide, well, hopefully we can come out of this thing a little bit better.
When you think about buses, the biggest thing you always want to do is have a plan of action, whether it's how to exit the bus, and where we're going to go. Thinking as far as a bus driver, the biggest thing you can do is just be very aware. Be very well aware, be very vigilant in what's going on around you, your surroundings, things of that nature, and then having a plan in place. A lot of times we call it crisis rehearsal. If this happens, I am going to do this. And then also having the folks that, that you're under the, power of taking care of, having them aware of, hey, if this happens, we're going to have this plan, making sure that it's clear and concise. But in regards to bus safety, just having a plan in place and knowing with the bus being mobile and going to different areas, that we have to have plans in almost every spot. Thinking about bus stops, hey, if it happens at this bus stop, I know for a fact I can go to this house or I can go to this building. We can get all the kids off. Maybe it'd be better for me to just continue to driving the bus forward. Just having a plan in place that's going to have more pros and cons. But when you think about, large outdoor areas, think about, football games on Friday nights, or maybe working an after school fair, all of those things. There is, the unfortunate fact that our society, there's a propensity of things, that can occur during these events. just having a plan in place, and not just the school administrators, but teachers who work there, the participants as well. You need to be very cognizant and aware of, where they could go or where they should go if something arises. And I can think of, the cafeteria at my kid's school. It's a pretty, elementary, standard cafeteria. Very open, very big. There's no walls in between. But my kids know, hey, if something happens, this is where we're going. We're going to go back towards the kitchen, and we're going to close the doors behind us. Alongside trying to get other people in there with us. With that being said, the workers in those facilities need to know what they need to do on their end. Something happens, cafeteria workers need to know they're going to be shuffling and funneling kids into into the kitchen area. Whether there's a back door in the kitchen area, maybe a loading dock that they can get and continue to exit kids out. With that, you're going to have to figure that out. I mean, I don't think there's any black and white answer for that. But if you look around your cafeteria, look around your gym, your library, you see, hey, there's a very hard wall here. When I say hard wall, I'm saying a hard structure that I could hide behind. There are enclosed spaces where I can get inside or put kids inside. All those things need to be explored. I mean, for this one, we got to think outside of the box. And a lot of times, if you don't think outside of the box, it could cost us lives. So you think about a hard corner, you think about it as a classroom. And, if you think about this, if I opened the door of this classroom and I stood within the threshold of that door, there are more than likely, depending on how the room is laid out, there's going to be one corner of the room that I'm not going to be able to see. So if we look at a room that, is fed through from the corner of the room, there's a very likely chance that I could see one, two corners, right, on top of the corner that I'm in. But there's a third corner or fourth corner there that I'm not going to be able to see. We refer to that as a hard corner. And that's a place that we can put people in where they're out of sight, they're not visible. In regards to our, the school of safety resiliency and all the things that we have in place, having those doors closed. If someone is looking, maybe, the window is it's not unobstructed, or it's not obstructed. We can see through that window. If someone looked in, can they see in this deep corner here? So thinking about if I'm in a room, and somebody's, in the doorway, what part of this room can I stand in? What corner can I stand in and get a lot of kids, a lot of people in this corner to where we cannot be seen? So, the hard corner is a very, very viable tool. It's a very viable tactic in regards to staying hidden, staying out of sight, said if something bad happens within those spaces. As a dad, and especially being in this line of work, the unfortunate truth is, especially as a law enforcement officer, you see a lot of bad in the world. With that being said, it's, I feel like it's my job as a father to prepare my kids for the just in case. It's kind of, our own internal insurance policy there. I would highly encourage teachers to talk to parents. Look around their schools. Me and my kids, when we go out to eat, it's more of a joke, but it's like, hey, who would find the fastest exit point? And the kids look around, that's it. And it becomes a game, but for me, it's a little bit more strategic. So if it happens, they know what the fastest exit point is. We'll do what ifs, on top of, playing the I Spy game. We'll play that as well, maybe go into places. And all of my kids think it's fun. For me, it's helping me as well. Say, hey, maybe you saw something I didn't see, to be able to say, hey, I can escape here or I can hide here. All those things you can do. I mean, although we don't want to talk about the atrocities that happen and talk about the violence that, unfortunately, the kids in America are being subjected to, I think it's imperative that we prepare our kids for those things that could possibly happen. We always say now, it's not if, it's when. It's when.
When law enforcement gets there, their main goal is to stop the spread, obviously. How they go about doing that is, it's not going to be there as a nice, opening statement of hey, how are you today? It's going to be very direct, very authoritative, and to the point of they're there to get to a certain point. The only reason they're there is to stop the threat. So it may not sound like the normal nice police officer that you've always talked to. It's going to be that person that tells you to get on the ground or put your hands up or put your cell phone away. It's going to be very direct. It's going to be very loud. It's going to be kind of chaotic. It's going to be to the point where you only want to obey with what they are going to say. The simple fact that they don't know who's who.
Yeah, a lot of people are going to expect a police officer to come in there with a sense of empathy and want to tell everybody everything's going to be okay. But at that point, that is not the stage that the officers who are arriving on scene are going to be in. They are there to stop the threat and figure out where the threat is at. With that, the officers are under stress as well, especially too, that they get that call, that dreaded call of this going on in the school. A lot of officers still have kids that are in school that may be their child's school. So we have to understand that things aren't going to be what our normal senses of police officers. Hello, hey, how are you doing? That's not going to be it. There are going to be a lot of boisterous commands. Some people may feel like they're being talked to as if they're the suspect, and that's just not the case. We're strictly trying to gain compliance, figure out what is going on, and once we figure that out, we'll get to the issue mode. But for that certain point, it's not going to be very friendly. It's there to get business done. Within a lockdown, everyone has a responsibility to get the information out and get the school under a state of lockdown. So a lot of people may say, hey, that's a principal's job or that's a counselor's job. It is everyone's job to maintain the safety of those students. So every teacher needs to have a next man up mentality where, hey, the principal is out of school. I know for a fact that I can do it. I know the entire process. And that needs to be school body wide. I mean, every person is a school, and not just, our teachers, our custodians, whoever's in the school as an adult. And that may be something that we can drive down to some of our more responsible students. Hey, we know how to get to lockdown if something happens. We're not waiting for one person to come in and to bless this thing off. We can get the school under lockdown and stop this from happening.
A lot of the teachers and the principal staff have radios now. Something I didn't mention earlier, but that ability, and it goes hand in hand with who can initiate something. If I can talk on a radio, then I can pass that information out to all the other staff that's in the building. That gives the opportunity to where maybe there's not one person there. It empowers everybody. And again, it goes back to the pre-planning. Who can do it? Who can do this? Make it as a part of your faculty training. Everybody has to do it, and everybody get a turn at doing it in your drills, so that you don't have the same voice over and over trying to do something, that you don't get used to that and start getting used to that voice and saying, I've heard that voice 100 times. No, let's get somebody's voice something different, maybe different tone inflection, different stress level, something that's going to be a little different that catches that person's ear and gives them that ability to initiate that.
Every school, by law, is supposed to have an emergency operating plan. And that emergency operating plan is best crafted when you have your first responders around the table along with your educators. And it doesn't need to be a complicated thing. It doesn't need to have to be 500 pages and stuff. It could be just a page or two on what you're going to do and who's going to be involved with the responsibilities of whatever emergency comes into play here. So that's important to be able to set out the roles of what's going to happen. They need to also be making sure that they are involved with the incident command structure, that when law enforcement arrives on the scene, that's a crime scene, then they're in charge. If it's a fire situation, then the highest ranking officer in the fire department's there. That the principal on the campus would then become a part of what they call the unified command anytime that we have an emergency. Then once the police officers leave and then once the fire officials leave, then it goes back to the principal. So it's a very simplistic thing, using common language, not a whole lot of codes and stuff. So it's very important for them to understand that. It's important to understand that by law, they have to have that plan. It has to be reviewed annually with their site-based council. And then all new teachers need to know the entire plan from the start to the finish. All of the current teachers that have already had that training need to be, ramped up on any kind of changes. One of the components of your emergency operating plan would be dealing with lockdowns, and of course that's part of this video and what we're trying to produce here. The Center for School Safety, in collaboration with several agencies and several of our consultants, came up with a list of items to consider and to discuss with your first responders when you're trying to craft your lockdown plan. And so I think it'd be very good for the viewers and for the administrators and their first responders to check that list out, see what's apropos for their specific school, and to see what they can do to make their lockdown procedures just a little bit better. When you look at the emergency operating plan, I think it's very important for the staff to understand that this is incredibly important. That chances are they're not going to have a major emergency, but when they do, they need to be very well prepared, and not to look at this emergency management plan as being some kind of compliance. It needs to be a commitment to doing things right, to practicing their drills right, and making sure that the teachers convey to the kids that this is serious business here. Be it a fire drill, be it an earthquake drill, be it a severe weather drill, or be it a lockdown drill, they need to take these things seriously, and then it becomes, the more often that they do these drills, the more it becomes second nature. And when it's second nature, then you can really stop the loss of life or injuries by being able to do things the right way the first time. One of the things that I think we've been trying to do for years here at the center, and I've been here for 19 years, we're trying to be a one-stop shop for them. You make the call here for us, and we will help you with whatever it is. Now, when we're talking about emergency operating plans, we have really tremendous consultants that work with us that are trained in just about every facet of emergency management, either it's prevention, mitigation, if it's preparation, if it's response, if it's recovery. We've got it all. And all the schools need to do is call our office, and I will assign somebody to work with the school if they want us to review their plans, if they want us to have them create the plans, and really help them out with that.
In response to active shooter situations, several years ago, the Kentucky State Police developed a program called the Safe Schools Program, during which we have a 3-hour training. We offer a 3-hour training as part of a professional development for teachers, school administrators, and staff. It is our job, and we find it's our responsibility to make sure that our teachers are equipped with the proper information and experiences to keep our students safe. Oftentimes we look at it and we sit back and we don't rise to the level of our expectations. Unfortunately, we fall to the level of our training. And with that in mind, we've developed a very a situation-based approach. We have a PowerPoint presentation that talks about the history of active shooter incidents and how to survive those. We don't just stop there, though. We move on and we actually put people through situational-based learning. We put them in classrooms in situations that they may face in an active shooter incident so that they can have the best chance of surviving and keeping our students safe moving forward. We want to put people in a real-world type situation in their school. You can sit back and say, you know, in a stressful environment, or if an active shooter situation occurs, here's what we are going to do. But until you actually walk through the steps in your own school, develop your own plan on how you will respond if something was to happen, that's where we see the value in this training. It's not something you go to a conference and we just talk about it. It's something where you may be in your own classroom whenever something ends up happening, and so you can understand where the exits are, different problems that may arise, different escape routes. Can you use your windows? How do your doors lock? Do they actually have you have to use a key, or does it have some other locking mechanism so that you understand at your school and in your classroom the best way for you to survive?
When you're thinking about this plan that I'm talking about, I'm not talking about some elaborate plan that you got to put together. You got to write it down. You got to go from A to Z in chronological order, or anything that difficult. Actually, it's pretty simple. You know, and again, I go back to the analogies when we train conflict. What I do, we try to teach them, number one, to be situationally aware, and that's just up and alert. It's not hyper vigilant, expecting something to happen horrible all the time. It's just being aware, looking for the changes in the environment. You know, teachers, when they walk into a school, and you heard me talk about this last year, I'll say it again because I think it's important. They see what the norm looks like. It's just like when you go to Walmart, or you go to the mall, or you go to the movie theater. There's an ebb and there's a flow of human beings. And there's certain things they're doing, there's certain things they're not doing. And most human beings are pretty good at picking up on the changes. So what I'm talking about, when you come to school, there's a baseline behavior in students and teachers. But for teachers, the first part of the plan is to trust your instinct. When you just to be, oh, you know what, when I see something that's out of place, I'm going to be deliberate about paying attention to it. I'm going to be inquisitive. I'm going to ask questions. It's things as simple as that sometimes that can stop these things, and you know, putting your attention where it needs to be. On the other part of the plan, are the plans that you have. It's what you do when you get out of the car. How do you walk to the school? Are you on your phone? Are you texting and trying to catch up with things and all the stuff we all do between your car and the school? If you're on monitoring duty, are you on your phone? Are you talking to a colleague? These are things we love to do, especially if you're like me. I love people. You love talking to people, and we can get distracted from the things we need to do. And part of the plan is being delivered about saying, hey, you know what? When I'm here, when I get to the school, I need to have my head up. I need to be paying attention to what's going on in the parking lot. And I need to be very deliberate about if I'm on duty and I'm at that, if I'm stationed at an entrance, I'm just paying attention. That's a plan. I'm looking for, that stick in the mud, so to speak. I had some training by the Secret Service years ago, and they talked about how they looked at crowds during presidential details, and they said it's pretty easy. You think about the ocean, you think about the tide rolling in and rolling out, and all we're looking for is the stick in the sand. And most people, if they understand that, they got to hone in on that, pay attention to it, take action. The other parts of making a plan is that when-then thinking. If I'm in the classroom and crisis rehearsal, if you will, we teach officers. If I'm in the classroom and I think about it from time to time, hey, if I heard gunshots right now, what would I do? Right now, I'm in class and I'm teaching. Well, we've trained you what to do. Shut that door. Get those kids in the corner. Everybody's quiet. You pull that shade and you wait for help. But that's a plan, as simple as it is. As simple as it sounds.
The stick in the sand comment kind of came at an awkward time, didn't it? Yeah. It's gonna be a little awkward going forward. I'm gonna turn this over real quick to Mr. Ripper, let him add a couple comments to this, and then I'll take some questions if y'all want to talk about this a little bit more, but I think he's got a few little things that he kind of wants to add and kind of go over a little bit. So I'll give it to him right now. Let me bring up the district website.
Yeah, if you want to, Mr. Hopkins, that'd be good. I know y'all are wore out. You've been here since what, 8?
Yeah.
Mr. Coffee, he wants to stay 7 or 8 tonight, so get on with it, Mr. I do appreciate you all so much for the job that you do. You're a critical part of the school, as I hope you know and understand. I've said this before. I've had Mr. Bill Barnett as my bus driver for many years, and I had a lot of teachers, but I really had one bus driver my whole school career, Mr. Barnett. Drove down West Main, down over Broadhead Road, and I appreciate him for all the service he had, and fond memories of him. So plays such a critical part. A couple of things when you think about threats. Of course, this video, a lot of this do with teachers and classrooms and things of that nature. But there's two kinds of threats. There's internal and external, and especially with you all. You got to be aware of that external threat. You let Johnny out, he goes up to his home, and you see maybe a stepdad there chewing him out when he walks up, or you see a strange vehicle there, or you see some kind of confrontation. You see something that's not good. You observe that, you see it, maybe not nothing terrible, maybe some yelling, kind of gets your attention. Well, the next day when you roll up to that spot, be paying really good attention. We just never know. You need to pay attention to that external threat of that home, drivers, what it's going to be like there. But then internally, what's Johnny like? What's his demeanor like when he gets on the bus that day? You know what he's like. You know his baseline behavior. You know how he is every day when he gets on the bus. Is he different? Do you see maybe a bulge in his pocket? What is that? Maybe he's got a backpack, and he never has a backpack. Be paying attention to those things. And then when you see something like that, you're not a police officer. What do? Well, one thing that I would advise you to do, if you see anything like you talked about the stick in the mud, what was the breakdown with Trump and what happened a few weeks ago with President Trump? People saw the guy before. They knew he was there 30 minutes before, but the breakdown was what?
Nobody.
Communication. For whatever reason, they didn't communicate to get somebody up there. They didn't communicate to the Secret Service on the stage to get Trump off the stage. Communication was the problem. So whenever you see something like that, if it's bothering you and your instincts absolutely matter, maybe pull over and text Mr. Hopkins. Would you prefer him to do that? Or, you could use the radio.
Preferably radio, probably, for
but
talking
just
most everybody.
But just let somebody know that, hey, I need to talk to you. Or I'm not saying you have to say that over the radio, but let him know there's an issue. And then he'll let the SROs know. He'll let us know. Or he'll let the principal know to meet that child and talk to that child, or the counselor or whoever. before they go in, so that we can help with that situation. Because y'all are gonna be the first that see that. And then if you encounter something, maybe you hear a child say something, and it's bothering you, obviously you can call Mr. Hawkins, you can call me, you can call any of us, you can call our SROs anytime. But see where it says safety tip line, you could go there. You could click on that. Now that takes you to the Department of Homeland Security. You can do this anonymously. Part of this year, we have to make everyone aware of this tip line. If you hear a parent say something, and maybe it's nothing, but maybe there's a custody situation going on, and that parent's talking about coming to school the next day. That's some of when I was a principal, that was some of the most intense situations I had, was custody situations, when parents come to school and they're upset and they're mad. You hear something. Again, you can call me anytime. You call Mr. Hopkins, but that's available too. You could do that. You could also go to the bullying and harassment. Now that's more for students that are facing something at school, but you could put something on here too. And that email goes to me and Dr. Ballinger only. So the other one is more of a state reporting tool. But I want you to be aware that those are there. If you hear a child says, well, I'm getting bullied at school, tell them to go fill this out. That gives us a report right then. A lot of times students, after a week later, they want to tell somebody. Tell them to fill that out. And then we investigate that. That doesn't mean it's always legit. Sometimes students say things that are not true to get those students in trouble, but that's where we investigate. This is just a reporting tool. So those two things are there. We want to make everyone aware of those resources. Again, I appreciate the job that you do, and I can't emphasize enough how important your job is, in particular when it comes to school safety. And when he's talking about the if-when thinking, you pull up to a school to drop your kids off and you see a bad situation out front, how are you going to react to that in the morning? Would you drive on? What would you do? Would you let your kids off? Think about that. What would you do? Would you try to pull to the back somewhere? Try to keep them out of potential harm's way? I know, Mr. Hawkins, we'd rather you be 5 or 10 minutes late and let us check something out as opposed to having someone put in a potentially dangerous situation. So that's all I got. I didn't want to keep you. I just wanted to share those things with you. Y'all have any questions for me? I appreciate the job that you do. I am the school safety coordinator. We do have the plans that they were talking about. If y'all ever want to see our plans, I'd be glad to share them with you. Well, every school has a plan. We also have district plans. If you've got ideas, if you think there's something that we need to be doing, on August 13th, I'm inviting all the first responders. They review our plans every year. They tour our buildings, and they give us their input. So if you all would like to see those anytime, I'd be glad to sit down with you and show you that.
Any questions? Anything else?
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. I'm gonna keep right on going with these. Again, I'd rather you just kind of get up. If you need to walk around, stand up, that's fine. Go to the bathroom. But I'd rather just try to keep moving and let's try to get done. Any objections to that? Okay. No. Okay. Most of what I've got, is things for the most part that you've heard before. We've talked about before. Some of this stuff I'm going to hit on real quickly and go over real quick because, like I said, other than Heather, I think most of you all have been in here and heard this stuff before. A lot of it is worth repeating and needs to be repeated probably every year. So a few of the things that I talk about are going to be things you've seen before. All right, first thing, let's talk about the next day that you all are required to come to work. Okay, August the 16th. That is our next training day. This is kind of the schedule that will be at the high school. It starts at 8 o'clock. Everybody needs to be in the gymnasium by 8 o'clock. Our new Commissioner of Education will be there in person. He will talk to the whole staff, everybody at one time in the gymnasium. Okay. Then from 9 o'clock, 9:45, 10:30, 11:30, these are our required trainings. Everything that we are required to do every year. A lot of the time in past years, we've combined this into our contract signing day, so that in essence, this is our contract signing day, but it will be a whole day and 2 days of PD credit for this. The last training scheduled to end at 2:25. Plan is that everybody goes back to the gymnasium at 2:30 for a closing ceremony. There'll be some door prizes and things that'll be given away. If you were to leave at 2:30, we're not gonna track you down, but if you were to win something, you have to be there to receive it. So that will be the plan, for this day, 8 hours of credit. Everybody's supposed to wear the t-shirts that you were given on the last day of school. So please make sure you wear those, try to wear those t-shirts. I'll have sign-in sheets. We'll sign in the morning, then we'll sign in at the end of the day as well. Any questions about that? Okay, and we will be, these trainings here that are listed will be in the auditorium. It will be us, it'll be bus monitors, and it'll also be, cook staff, the cooks, the food service, thank you. Food service staff will be in there with us as well. So that's on the 16th. That'll be the only other required day of training that we'll have the rest of the summer.
We're gonna sign our contracts that day?
I will squeeze that in there somewhere, yes. One of these hopefully will end a little bit early, and I'll hop up there and I'll have them ready to go and we'll sign them then. Yes, thank you for mentioning that. Our lunch that day is being sponsored by Thomas School Buses, so they are helping us out a little bit, so I told them I'd kind of give them a little bit of plug. Anything else? All right, here's important dates that are coming up. First day of school, August the 26th. Monday, August the 26th. First day of preschool, a little bit different. Tuesday, September the 3rd. We'll be off for, actually, that's wrong. That's wrong. That is wrong. It is actually going to be Wednesday, September the 4th. I forgot to go in and update that. So there'll be, Labor Day will be Monday. There'll be no preschool on Tuesday, but it will start on Wednesday. I apologize for that. I meant to change that and forgot. First day of preschool, Wednesday, September the 4th. Then those are bus drill days, October the 18th, March 28th. I did not do the Friday before fall break because I'm pretty sure that will also be the Friday before Bittersweet Festival. I didn't want to get into that. That's a bit of a cluster. So I'm going to push that first bus drill back until after fall break. The March one is that is the Friday before spring break. All right, if you are talking with a principal on your bus in the morning or afternoon, while dismissing, please pull off to the side and allow other buses to go by. I know a lot of times this happens quickly, it happens fast. You think the principal's going to get on there and be on and off in 30 seconds, and then he's on there for 5 minutes.
He's not that fast.
What's me for?
Everybody.
He can't do nothing in 30 seconds.
I know, exactly.
Can we move Jack to the back of the line this year, just asking?
And again, I know we all want to get on our jobs, we want to get going, we want to be moving, we don't like sitting. But really, for me personally, the reason I look at this is you all are on times, you're on schedules, your parents are on schedules, they expect you to be there at certain times. Let those other buses get by. So if we're going to have a late bus, I'd rather have one running a little bit late as opposed to 10 running late. I know this happens out of Roundstone. Y'all need to talk to Miss Debbie. Hey, pull on up, get on out of the way, get out of your spot, let everybody else kind of go around you. So, same thing that goes on down at Broadhead. You know, you've got places to pull over and get out of the way. So help us out with that. Just don't ever assume that conversation with the principal is going to be in and out and over real quickly. It rarely is.
Oh, it will be now.
Ain't no way. Prove it. No way. We'll see. Just for some people. I'm going to keep talking about this every year. I just keep hoping at some point somebody will take me up on it. The angel seat. In the mornings, I have the first student that gets on the bus, have them sit up there close to the front of the bus. Front seat, second seat. Get them on the bus, get them on there quickly. That way they're close by to you. You had the ability to talk to them, ask them how their day was, ask them how their night was, whatever. Then as you stop, once you've stopped at your next stop, then they can proceed to the back of the bus, their assigned seat, wherever they're kind of supposed to be at. And then just keep doing that throughout your route. I promise you probably save 5 minutes. Now, if you've got one big stop with 20 people, no, that's probably not going to work real great. But, if you've got a bunch of stops, it'll save you some time, plus it gives you a chance to talk to your kids, create that relationship, create that, bond with them. And then I think it'll work in the afternoons too. If you want to do the same thing in the afternoon, whoever the first student is off, have them up there at the front of the bus. Get to that first stop in the afternoon when the bus is stopped. The next student that gets off comes toward the front of the bus, and that way they're off the bus a whole lot faster. Again, I really think this would work. I'm gonna keep talking about it till somebody takes me up on it. And then that person, I hope, comes back and say, man, that was a great idea. More people ought to do that.
It really does work.
Yep, I believe it will. Who can ride the bus? Current employees, and currently enrolled students. Okay, now a current employee or volunteer, we can have people hired as volunteers. So I'm not gonna hit on this a lot because this really didn't come up last year. I just do think it is worth mentioning, that who can actually ride a school bus.
So the volunteers go through a training also about confidentiality or something?
They pretty much a
sign papers
background
for
check. Pretty much a background check is the main thing that they do.
I can remember
I
signing
need to
a
talk to you
paper.
about that too when you get time. All right, here's my who to call list. I actually got it updated a little bit different this year. If you need a sub for your regular route, Daniel, raise your hand there. Make sure everybody knows who you are. That's your guy. Midday subs, that would be Daniel once again as well. I have heard nothing but positive, great remarks on how he did with the scheduling second half of the year. I can't brag on him enough how great he did with it. It really worked good. The technology part between me and him was really good. Believe it or not, Darrell Allen was not real good at technology. We struggled on some things, but it got a lot smoother with Daniel the way we did it. It was an awesome setup. Trees trimmed or gravel, bus issues, that would be Jason. He's now head mechanic at the garage, has been for a few months now. So any of those issues, call him. He will help you out with all of those things. Anything else, pretty much else comes to me.
So if I have problems with Will Meadow, I can call you?
You call me. I would be glad to counsel you and probably say my wife does the same thing to me. All right, NTI days, this is all exactly the same as it was last year. No changes, nothing different. Contracts will once again be for 180 days. First 5 days of no school will be NTI days, and there will be 5 NTI days. We will find them, not a problem. Days 6 to 10, most likely, packet work if those days are called. Last year we had 1. I think we have 1 NTI day. Some of you turned in the whole packet. God bless you. Hope you got something good out of it, but you didn't have to. We only had 1 day past number 5. So the day 6, which was counting our students, that was the only one that you had to do. So those of you who did the extra work, good for you. Appreciate that. But again, just every how many days we have. We're due a year, we're gonna miss 20 some days. I know it's coming. So we are due. And it's not extra work, those are contract days. Okay, don't allow side exits, rear exits to be blocked with backpacks or equipment, regular routes and trips. This is just you training your students. I drive enough sub routes that I know the drivers that are adhering to this, and I know the ones that I have to ask some kids, hey, you can't put that band instrument that's at that side door. I know it's out there, so just keep that in mind. It's one of those we've talked about. All right, let's talk about something good. All right, this is a rendering of our new middle school. This is a artistic drawing of the entrance to the new middle school. I want to show you all some pictures, and then I'll kind of talk about where we are in the stages and the process of getting this project started.
That high part there in the back, is that supposed to be the old gym?
I think so. Yeah. That is the only part of the current structure that will remain.
Right.
Everything else gets demolished and goes away. Now, it will be done in phases. There are, I think, 3 phases before you would actually probably see this final outcome.
That taller part is the gym?
Yep. He's talking about this up here, this high part. That's the current gymnasium. This right here, back in here, I'm assuming is probably the new gymnasium.
And
there will be
what's their guesstimate is how many years this is gonna take?
3 years. 3 years. Phase one, which starts, hopefully will start in October, will be about 18 months. I hope that happens. I'm skeptical too. Phase one will be about 18 months, and that removes everything from the current gym to the football field. So if you're the old ag shop area,
Yeah.
that part goes away. The band room, art room, all goes away. Only thing kind of in that area that will stay will be the cafeteria and the kitchen. Everything else goes away.
Are they gonna build a new bus garage too, while they do this?
I'm working on it.
Won't be enough money left to do that, Bob.
I'm working on it. We're currently taking bids, so that's where we are right now in the process, where bids are out there, going through that part of the process. We'll open bids July 31st. So July 31st, we'll know if this is a go or a no-go. If the numbers come in like they came in last time, we'll be a go. We've got enough money to do it this time around. They come in a lot higher, there'll be some question marks. But we're getting more people bidding than we had bidding before. Last time we only had one general contractor bidding. We now have at least 2 bidding, maybe 3. So hopefully that'll create some more competitive bids.
Make up, say there's 8 bidding.
Right.
I'm just trying to be honest, just trying to communicate the best I can. Here's what a lot of you all have talked about, and I want to show you this. This is the tunnel that they talk about. This is you can see, this is the football field. Down on the bottom, this is the new school. Okay, you're seeing the new school there, the new build. It will be open in the middle where cars can pass through. School buses can pass through. I've had communications with the architect. They've asked me how tall is a school bus. Well, I gave them specs from Thomas specifically, so they have all that information. So that'll give you kind of a visual idea of what that part's going to look like. This is a picture of the new football field looking back toward the new building. As you can see, right up here, one little light. That's the bus garage. Okay, there's the current locker room. And you can see how the new building will come right on top of the football field. It will, in essence, be part of the grandstand area. Concessions will be connected.
And will they have a different road going to the bus garage, or will we back one up under?
Well, once it's all done and built, there's probably a real good chance, yeah, we'll be going right through there. I don't know. Don't ask me how the AM drop off, PM pick, I do not know. I have not got that far yet. But I do know that as soon as these bids come in, the first thing that they're gonna have to do is build us a new road that gets us to the bus garage. Because once they start the construction, that lower part of the lot will be inaccessible. You will not be able to drive through there. So phase one, before they even start building anything, is to build us a road that will come out right across from Save Lot. Okay, that's the intentions, and I keep, every time I'm in a meeting, hey, that road's happening, because I know that's gotta happen before anything else can occur. This is just another view. That's the building kind of on the left side there, looking over the football field. The classroom's literally back right up to the football field. This is the courtyard area, kind of in the middle of the pass-through of the tunnel area. These tables are right off the cafeteria. So in theory, during warmer days, students will be able to come outside, sit on these tables during their lunchtime. There's meant to be a little bit of a green space that, some kids might be able to have some outdoor classrooms, play a little bit, things along those lines.
Smoke break and stuff like that. So it was, I was good.
So those are pictures. So that gives you a visual idea. I know a lot of you asked me a lot of questions. Hopefully that'll give you a little bit better idea of what we're talking about, what we're looking at, where we're trying to get to. Like I said, the first phase is 18 months, and that pretty much builds a majority of the new building. A lot of the majority of the new classrooms will get built within that phase. Then the other phase will be a lot more of the administrative areas, the new gymnasium, library, other different parts. I've got kind of phase one in mind. I really don't have phase 2 and 3 really figured out.
That first picture, and you said the taller part was the gym now.
Correct.
So they're gonna do away with that and build a new gym?
No, No, there's gonna be two gyms.
Oh.
In the end, there's gonna be two. They'll keep the old one, and then one of the final phases, it won't be in that first phase, but one of the final phases builds a new gym. They call it a gymatorium, but in essence, it's what you all have had at Mount Vernon forever. It's a combination of a gymnasium and a stage area. If you've ever been to Corbin Middle School, and been in there, that's a real good example of what hopefully it will eventually look like.
They want to improve the acoustics.
Yeah, it'd have to be. It would have to be. Okay, so how does all this affect us, and how's it gonna, some of our changes? Now, this is a combination of the new middle school and us doing what's called an alternate calendar, which is allowing us to start school a little bit later. So morning tardy times at the high school and middle school will now be 8 o'clock. Okay? In the past, I think the high school was 8:05 and the middle school was 8:10. I think I've got that right. So they're gonna pull both of those back, so they're the same, and they'll be tardy at 8 o'clock. Okay? As of today, there are no plans to change the dismissal times from each elementary school. Okay, so the times you've been getting to your elementary schools, all goes well, will not change. Don't change your routes. Don't run any earlier. Do what you've been doing in past years. Now, with that said, if we get a month in, not a day or two or a week or two, if we get a month, 6 weeks in, and we've still got kids that can't get to school, get their breakfast, and get to class on time because they're riding the school bus, we may have to move that back about 5 minutes, 5 or 10 minutes. But starting out, that is not the plan. We've already got kids getting on the bus at 6:30. I really don't want anybody having to get on the bus at 6:25 and 6:20. So, does that make sense to everybody? Okay. All right, there will no longer be AM morning high school transfers at the middle school. Okay, these transfers will now take place at Mount Vernon Elementary. Just like Broadhead and Roundstone have done for as long as I can remember. We'll do the exact same thing over at Mount Vernon. I'm going to meet with Mr. Coffey, Ms. Smith later this week probably before school starts, and we'll get a plan together to make that flow and work as best possible. I'll convey those plans to you, but as far as you keep doing what you've been doing. Mount Vernon drivers, you keep doing what you've been doing as far as getting to school. Once you get there, at that point, you're either going to go to the high school or you're going to go to the middle school. Nobody's going to both schools. There's no transfers getting off one bus, getting on another bus. I will say this, if you currently have a high school shuttle, okay, if you're driving a high school shuttle route in the afternoon, then you will have a high school shuttle route in the morning. If you have a middle school afternoon shuttle route, you will have a middle school shuttle route in the morning. Okay, kind of makes sense, right? Cleans things up. That way you kind of know where you're going. That's as far as my plan's gotten as of right now. Those of you that do not have a afternoon shuttle, which I think is about 6 buses maybe, I'm gonna have to look at some numbers, put the pieces together, and you will then be assigned either the middle school or the high school, one or the other. I will try to take into account where you live at, where your bus is going to be parked at, where you're going to. I'll take things like that into consideration. But at the end, I'm probably going to have more middle school buses going to middle school than high school because there's just more of those students.
All right. But all buses from Mount Vernon Elementary will still go to the middle school in the mornings.
No. You either go to the middle school or the high schools. There will be no drop-offs back there behind the school. You will have your situation I've still got to figure out. I mean, if I'm thinking where you live at, it would be preferred for you to just go to the high school only. You would just have high school kids getting on your bus at Mount Vernon Elementary. Should clean things up, should make that tardy time up there a little bit easier to obtain, that 8 o'clock time. Any other questions, comments? I know you brought in Roundstone people, that really doesn't affect you all, but it's a big deal for the Mount Vernon people. All right. Think of anything, please call me, text me. We'll talk about it. We'll work through it. I'm sure there's going to be some things that we'll have to work through. Afternoon dismissal time will now be 3:05. We're pushing it back 5 minutes. Okay, it'll be 5 minutes later at the middle school and the high school. So I think that's probably where a lot of this, these extra 8 days is really hitting us as much as anywhere. Everybody's gonna get home about 5 minutes later. Sports teams wanting to leave, they're not gonna be able to leave until about 5 minutes later.
What's gonna kill Chris today?
I knew that was coming, something like that. Any questions about that one? I will add, I didn't want to confuse you, but I do think the high school is maybe planning on dismissing at 3:07. They want a couple extra minutes. So that may come down to a Broadhead and Mount Vernon buses leaving the middle school. You all may need to stop there at the end of the driveway until you know for sure that the high school is dismissing. Roundstone, you all can go on because you all can get in your lineup. Your lineup won't be changed, and you're the first ones out anyway. So Roundstone buses from the middle school, you all are good to go on. But Broadhead and Mount Vernon, we'll just see how that plays out. Wish they weren't doing that.
Is the road going at the high school gonna be finished?
Oh, yeah. I think it's supposed to be done August, I think maybe 15th or 16th, somewhere around there. And I've not heard anything that project's running behind. I think it's on schedule. Okay, let me get into some of the changes that we've made on our salary schedule that affects shuttle drivers. 2% and 4% are now gone. That is now a thing of the past. Instead, we've replaced that with a supplement, okay, a salary supplement. Okay, so if you end up being a 2%, which in essence is very few people, that's pretty much the middle school transfer people. And it's going to be the high school transfer people now. You all will all now be 2% because the only transfer that you're considered to be doing is the one in the afternoon. But that will be $500. 4%ers, which is pretty much special needs drivers along with Broadhead and Roundstone transfers, that 4% now becomes a $1,000 supplement. So read the highlighted part here though, okay? Last year, I went in and I found the most experienced 20-plus year driver that was paid 4%. They were paid $525.60. Okay, that was last year. So in essence, it's not a 50% increase, but it's close. It's in the 40% range. So I don't think anybody that's going from a 4% down to a 2% is going to see any difference in their pay. Does that make sense?
Explain that again on the 2 and 4. Who gets the 2 and who gets the 4?
You're before. Broadhead and Roundstone shuttle buses from the high school and the middle school, instead of being 4%, which was probably about $500 last year, this year it'll be $1,000. Like he doesn't have a shuttle. He just beat you down at Broadhead, so he's a 0%. He's a 0.
Always have been.
So he doesn't get it. Does that make sense? He's my buddy, so I can get along with it. All right, I'll give everybody a chance to let that sink in. Any other questions or confusion? We tried to do this right. We tried to correct this. Hopefully this is better. Is it perfect? No. Is that enough for those of you that do those shuttles? No, it's not enough. But it's better. It's better. All right, we'll move on. All right, turn in paperwork. Just like last year, no real major changes to this, but I want to talk about it a little bit. I'll announce the turn-in dates. You know, again, 5th of the month is gone. Hopefully everybody's got that out of their mind by now, except for maybe Miss Sandra. But everybody else, hopefully by now, is still working on the 2nd of each month as the last possible date. Broadhead and Roundstone, I don't think this ever came up, but if you ever do need to turn your stuff in at the elementary schools, they'll get it up here to me. You can do that if you need to, if that helps you, if you're not going to be in town. Paper sorter is still at the bus garage in the break room. Paperwork in the correct slots. We still are a little bit struggling with correct slots. So just look at that and just be real careful with it. I did change the labels a little bit, and I tried to emphasize the difference between blank and monthly. Okay, blank is blank. Okay, just read it. And I know you're standing there, it's at the end of the day, you gotta get to your route, you want to get them in the slot and get rid of them. I get it, I understand. But just take a deep breath, look at them, read them. I promise, they're there. They're easy to be found. Again, blank means blank. You know, there's nothing on it. That's the ones you need if you don't have the sheet. Monthly, you know, that's what you turn in each month. That's your fuel sheet. That's your pre-trip. That's your time sheets. Sub-driver time sheets, monthly. You know, word monthly is the key. Okay, monitor, there's the monitor one. There's a new one. I put my name on there, so anything you need to get to me, you can drop off at the bus garage, put it in that top right, and it comes to me, comes to central office. Invoices, that's for the mechanics. That's where they put the invoices, things that need to be paid, so you don't have to worry about that. But top right corner, that's me. Okay, don't take the last copy on me. Okay, leave me at least one copy. If you really want to be helpful, hop over to the copier machine and run 20 new ones, 25 new ones. I do my best every morning when I come in, if I'm not driving or something. I try to go over there and look and see what's over there and if something's behind, but I forget about it sometimes. So if I do, just don't take the last one. Take as many as you need, take as many as you want. I'll make copies, but just don't take the last one because then I've got to go track down a new one. All right, physicals. I'm going to go over this a little bit. 1 year or 2 years now. Okay, majority of us are still just getting 1 year. There's a handful though that are getting 2 years. $75 reimbursements. I don't have to have your receipts. In essence, your receipt is your physical. During the school year, make sure you get it done before your due date. Okay, please. During the summer, a little bit of leeway. But during the school year, please try to get those done. I'm trying now. I've kind of gotten, if I'm giving you a heads up, I'm doing it in about 2 weeks because I know some of the doctors are a little harder to get in with and everybody's busy and there's a lot going on. So about 2 weeks out, I'll usually shoot you an FYI or a friendly reminder and give you your date. It's best to bring them directly to central office, but again, that top right box at the bus garage comes to me as well. It's just if it gets straight to central office, they get into my mailbox. It's just one less set of steps that it has to go through. But it's more convenient for you. Whatever's convenient for you is fine with me. All right, where to get your physicals? Quick Care Crossing the High School, still not doing them. Livingston and Broadhead both have locations. I went to Broadhead yesterday. I called one day last week. I called on Wednesday. They got me in on Monday. So they're pretty good down there. I like them quite a bit. There are some others around, but you don't have to go to your family doctor. It's not required. But if you want to talk with them about something, that's fine. Just make sure you're getting those appointments as early as possible.
If you do use your family doctor, make sure they can do them.
Yeah, absolutely. Some can. They have to be trained. They have to do update trainings as well. I know Dr. Johnberg, if you see Dr. J, she does not do them here in Rockcastle. Dr. Arvin, I think, is retired or is retiring. He was one that did not do them. Other than that, I think the majority, other than the Quick Care, I think the majority in the county do them. There's one down in Stanford that a few people go to occasionally. Dog patch, whatever it is, off the London exit. You can get them done down there.
They got a big old sign up there.
Yeah, yeah. I think they're a little more expensive. They might be about $85. Berea Quick Care at Walmart or Quick Care there around Walmart. I think they do them, but I think they're like $85. So I have talked to a couple of the doctors. They now prefer that we don't bring blank copies. They would rather us use their copies. Okay, they have them. They have access to them. They can download a lot of them. I know when I was at Broadhead the other day, it was already yellow highlighted where I was supposed to fill out parts of it, and they had it down really good. So if you don't have a copy, don't expect it. You don't have to have one. They'll probably have one for you. They would prefer their part, like the doctor's numbers and stuff. They prefer putting that in there. So if you don't have one, it's fine. It's perfect. It's probably even better that you don't. I would say though, maybe go in about 5 or 10 minutes early and give yourself time to fill it out, because it does take a few minutes to fill out everything that they're asking for. Okay, now this is a little bit different. I'm afraid this is gonna create some confusion. I hope it doesn't, but I've been worried about this. Starting in September, reimbursements will be issued when your physical is completed. Okay, in the past, for as long as I can ever remember, we've paid everybody for the physical that they're gonna get at some point during the year. We've paid them for that, paid you for that physical in September. Okay, on your September paycheck, around after the September board meeting, you would get a $75 check, and that would be for you to use when you get your check, when you get your physical. Okay, with some people getting 2 years and some people getting 1 year, it's really hard for me to keep up with, okay, who's due, who's not due, who do I need to pay this year, who doesn't get paid this year. So I just determined the easiest way for me to do that. It'll make a little extra work on me, a little extra work on finance. But when you bring me your physical, I'll fill out your standard invoice for you. I'll do the reimbursement. I'll take care of everything, but you will get your reimbursement when you get your physical completed, a few days later.
Example, I think I'm actually due August. I actually would get mine in September because that's our first paycheck back.
So the one that you're going to do in August, you got paid for in September of last year.
Nope, because I'm a 2-year.
Oh, you're 2 years. Okay, okay. So you got paid for yours in September of 2022. Yeah, so Mr. Cornelius fell in the same category. Ronnie McClure fell in that same category. It's really confusing for these guys. Technically, they got paid for the physical they did in September of 2022. If we want to talk about it and you all can convince me differently, I'm not against it. I think I've got that right. But if y'all want to go through it with me, feel free to. Jack, what you got? I know what you got, but go ahead and
I'm glad you're gonna change it to the way you was just talking about.
You're welcome.
Wouldn't that have been, the 22 one been for the one that we did that year?
Do what now?
Wouldn't the payment in 22 have been for the one we did in 22 that's gonna last us the 2 years?
So you got paid in 2022. You would have been due in August of 2023, right?
No. As a 2-year, no. If we've been doing 1 year, yes.
So I did not give you a check probably in September of this past year.
No.
Because you got your check in September 2022.
Right.
So
that's what I'm saying, like with the next one coming up, then I would be reimbursed for that one.
the next one, not your August one, but the next one after that. You'll get your check right after you get it done. If you get 2 more years.
Already paid for this.
I don't see how that is. Okay, if it's a
Well, you need to
reimbursement.
think about it. That's what it is.
Well,
Think
see,
about it.
So in September 22, I wasn't due until like that month or the month after. So I got reimbursed ahead of time.
Let me talk about it. Let me move on.
I'm not gonna be the only one that has it.
I know, and that's what I was worried about. That's why I said I was worried about it. Anything else? Be all right. So the doctor will decide if you take blood pressure medicine, 1 year automatic. CPAP, 1 year automatic. Diabetes, 1 year automatically. There's something else when you do the urine test. There's something else in there. If it falls in a certain range, you only get 1 year. But blood pressure is what gets most of us. My face gets red. I know.
Yeah, I can't.
No.
Who you go to?
Anything else?
I ain't telling.
I know, but you're the only person she does one for.
My sister's gonna start doing it.
All right.
She's going for her.
This is a little bit different too, and I've confirmed this with our contractor that comes from KDE. Going forward, the only part of your physical that I want is this top page.
Sorry. I just give you everything.
If you've been giving it to me, that's fine, and I've been keeping it. Up until this day, I've been keeping every part of it.
Oh, no, don't throw mine away.
I haven't, it's in your folders. But after today, your next one, if you give it to me, I'm throwing it away.
Oh, no.
Just so you know.
Oh,
So if you want to keep it, keep it. That's fine. It's yours. All I want is this top copy. That's all I need. I keep a digital copy. I keep the paper copy for a year. Then once after a year or 2, then it gets thrown away. But if you give me the whole thing, that's fine. I'm just gonna shred it for you. But going forward, all I want is this top copy. That's all I'm gonna keep. Your doctor probably makes a copy of them too. So if you ever need the full packet, the doctors make a copy of the whole thing. You could go back and get it from them. But all I need for your driver folder, to send to the transportation cabinet is the top copy. Okay? Most of us did pretty good on this year, but help us out a little bit. Pre-trip, everybody recognize two-part copy for your pre-trip. Okay? And it says it right down here at the bottom. White is maintenance copy. That's what goes in the folder at the bus garage. Yellow copy is your copy to keep if you so choose to. You throw them away, whatever you want to do with them. Keep them for your lifetime. That's a great idea. But just tear them apart for us, okay? Separate them, and then just give us this page. You wouldn't believe how much time I spend going through and tearing these off. There's not many of you that's still doing it. Most of you helping us out. But if you are one of those people, I'd like to get down where it's like maybe one or two, and then I'll start going to that one person and say, hey, you do this for me, instead of saying it to everybody. But it's more than one or two, so that's why I'm talking to the group. By law, you're supposed to have it. We used to do 3 copies. We have a 3 line. About driver's license renewal, you're supposed to do self-certification prior to renewing. I'm about done saying this because those of you that's gone lately, maybe y'all can know, but I'm pretty sure they do your self-certification for you right there at the computer. If you want me to do it ahead of time for you, I can, but I've quit going in ahead of time and doing it for people because a lot of people have gone, they've gotten their license, and I've never heard anything about it. So the self-certification, I'm pretty sure they're doing for you. I do need to see a picture of your new license, and that includes the temporary license that they give you that's usually good for about a month or until your permanent one comes in. I need to see that one, and if you give me a copy of that one, that's what I use for your reimbursement. That's how I get you paid back. So that paper copy they give you when you leave, text me a copy, send that to me, I'll get you reimbursed. That's all I need. If you don't like texting that, sending that over the airwaves, that's fine, I get it. But I do still need a copy one way or the other. Then when you get your permanent license in, I need a copy of that too, because that goes into your driver folder. You know, most of those are going for 8 years now, so 8 years is a good thing. Reimbursement, I don't think anybody's getting 35 anymore. I think if you're a CDL, you have to do 8 years or you're getting 8 years. And it comes out to about $77. Again, don't reimburse for motorcycle, don't reimburse for hazmat, don't reimburse for the travel ID.
They gave me the option of 4, but I wanted to get it. So.
Okay,
this
did they?
was-
You had an option?
Yeah.
Okay.
August was $122 for 8 years. And I asked that woman if he died, if I could get reimbursed on them other years, and she didn't like it.
She probably felt sorry for Bob.
Real ID date, there it is. We're getting closer to it. Maybe it gets pushed back again. It's been pushed back a bunch, but it seems legit this time. It seems real, but it's May 7th, 2025. Everybody will have to do it when they renew, when you renew. So if you're good, if you've got your license currently, you're good. You're fine. You don't have to do anything any different. But the next time you go to renew, you will have to do the real ID part. You'll have to bring in all these things. But those offices are Somerset, London, Danville, Richmond. Majority of people go to Somerset. If you need me to make an appointment for you, I make appointments all the time, but it's done online. They seem to be getting this down pretty efficiently. But there's all the things that you have to have if you are getting the real ID. Females, keep in mind to take your marriage license to verify your name change.
What if you don't want a real ID? All I want is my license renewed.
But they're switching the system.
I'm
You
sorry.
don't have a choice.
If you get your real ID now and in 2032, I have to. Do I have to have all that other stuff?
Yes, in 2032.
I have to have all that stuff?
You have to have all that. Yes.
So you've already got a real ID?
If you've already got your real ID, you won't have to do that.
Yeah, if you've already got your, I'm sorry, did I miss something? Yeah, if you've already got it, I'm sorry. I thought you were saying you got it. No, I don't think so. I don't know of anybody that's renewed.
Unless something changes.
Okay.
If like you were to be divorced, widowed, change your name back.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood. Sabrina.
Yeah, I
Thank
didn't
you.
got
Thank
it.
you. Yeah, if you already got it, the way I understand it, unless something changes. Good question. I'm sorry. You better be. All right, here's your student rosters. This is again what I talk about every year. I do have to have these. These are important. I know it's hard. I know it is hard, especially if you've got 40 plus kids on your bus. I'll be very, very patient on getting these back from you, but I do need them. And here's just a few reminders. Be accurate with them. Don't use last year's. If you know the students' real regular names, use them both. I've put October 2nd on there, but again, if you need more time, it's fine. I just need to get them at some point, sooner than later.
Thank you.
That helps me with new students, and I do go over every single name. I go into Infinite Campus and I review them to make sure that we're getting the correct funding. So it is important. Make sure I can read them. Don't include your middle school and high school shuttle students unless they're riding your home bus. So I'm just looking for your home routes. Just your home routes. And only put one student name per line. If you've got 3 people in the same house as Jim, John, and Carrie Bowling, do Jim on one line, do John on one, whatever. Just do them on 3 lines. Don't put them all on the same line. That makes it real hard trying to figure out which grade was that one in, which grade was that one in. So separate them out, 1 line per student. And I didn't put it on there, but I do like to have times. I really need to, I use these a lot. When a parent calls me, hey, what time's the bus gonna be at my house? I go to these, I look at them. Well, they're at this place at 6:45. They're just past you at 6:55, so I can give them a time frame. So please.
Where it says AM and PM, you do want that.
I want a specific time, not a check mark. That is not a check mark. What you got, Roger?
Oh, that. Senior moment.
Okay, you go back to those. All right, here's your daily route mileage sheets. I do need these. Again, I want to get these. I like to get them checked off. I'm doing these now. They come to me. I don't report this until June of next year. Just being perfectly honest. It's June of next year before I report these in. But let's go ahead and get them done, get it knocked out, get it turned into me.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
On that last sheet that we had there, whenever we have students that come in, we give you these things on October 2nd.
Don't worry about updating it. Don't. Some of you have done that. Hey, we add this one on, and I usually say, yeah, I'll add it on for you. And if I think about it, I do. I go in and add them on for you. But if it changes during the year, don't feel like you've got to update it, change it, do it different. Tell me. Thank you for mentioning that, Roger.
Is it all right, like on the name of the road, like Low Gap Road, I got 10 kids, it's
Yeah.
put Low Gap once and then leave it blank and go down to.
Leave them blank, use dots, use dash. Yeah, I know what that means. No problem. That's fine.
Yes.
Student bus monitors, I'll train them on the Friday before preschool starts. Prepare and remind those that need to attend. 16 and older, I can pay them. Under 16, they can do it as a volunteer. I'm about student bus monitors. And try to have somebody, if your adult monitor is absent, have somebody in mind, especially if you've got preschool students. By law, we're supposed to have either an adult monitor, student monitor, volunteer monitor. So, somebody comes up during the year, one of your student monitors moves away, they get the license, and you start using somebody new, shoot me a text, tell me their name, I'll go to the high school, I'll get them trained in just a few minutes, and they can get paid for it if they're 16, they'll be legal. So, student monitors. Sick leave and personal days, exact same thing it's been in the past, 10 sick, 3 personal, not 13 to take off. Those are your reasons for sick days, those are your reasons for personal days. No change to any of that. If you're missing more than 3 days in a row for personal reasons, you need to notify me directly. I know there's a couple times this came up, Daniel even told, hey, you need to let Mr. Hopkins know that. It's fine to let him know, but he'll probably tell you as well, hey, you call Mr. Hopkins, let him know that as well. And I'm not going to necessarily deny it to you. I'm just going to say, well, anything past ever how many personal days you have will be days without pay. And I just want to emphasize and make sure you know that. Make sure you're aware of that before you decide to make that final decision. Missing for personal reasons, any days missed is days without pay. I did add, even if you are out of days. You know you've losed all your personal days and you still have to take another personal day. You still have to turn in a leave form. Even though you don't have days left, same way with sick days. Even if you're out of sick days, you still have to turn in a leave form. We still have to have documentation. It still has to be tracked. It still has to go into the system. You still have to sign off on it, recognizing that you're out of days in essence. But I've had that come up a couple times. People thought, well, I'm out of days. I don't have to fill out the leave form. Yes, you do still have to fill out the leave form. Again, say it every year. I think it's really that important. Pick up students anywhere, bring them to school. Get them in, get them here. We'll figure out if they're on the wrong bus, wrong route, wrong district. We'll figure all that out during the day. We just want to get them to school. Afternoon, though, totally different. Well, yeah.
So this happened 2 or 3 years ago, where those brothers got on, and after I figured these were new students, and when they got on, they said, "This is our first time we're riding the bus. We've never been to a school before." And I said, "Did your parents take you out?" And they hadn't. So that's kind of, they're not students.
Yeah.
So, but we were already on the bus.
Get them there. Get them there. But let the principal know that.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, it's not ideal. That's not perfect, but I wouldn't want to leave them sitting out there on the side of the road either. Get them in, then we'll figure it out. Yeah, that's good. That's an example. I can see that happening. Afternoon, you got to have a bus pass if you're not a regular student. Again, we do this great. Radio use. Let's talk about it. Come on, let's get real. Okay, I got your attention. Come on. We listen. I know. Here's the information. Here's the stuff I always say. Don't radio about trees that need trim, roads that need repair. Call us. Get on the cell phone. Call us on the phone after the routes. Okay. I know it's easy to forget about it, but don't forget about it. I know some of you feel like there's more radio chatter going on than there needs to be. I feel like there's still more radio chatter than there needs to be. Okay. It could be better. I want to work on it. I've tried to work on it. I talk about it every year. I've talked to individuals. Everything that I've done hasn't worked. I'm just being real. It's not worked. Scratching, taking the mic and scratching it, doesn't work either. Sighing and shooing, hadn't worked either. So please don't do those things.
And don't
It makes us.
down on people and them trying to talk. It burns me up.
And that's a real thing.
If you're that childish, talk to that person and tell them on. We're being stupid.
Wrong her, Bobby?
Oh,
Yeah.
You fired her up, but I've been doing this.
I didn't say nothing to her. She's nowhere just going on by herself.
But here's what I can do.
Get rid of the radios. That'll solve the problem.
Not a terrible idea, but we can't do that. Gotta have them for safety reasons, because when we need them, we need them. You know that. When we need them, we need them. But listen, don't forget, there is a video right over top of your head. Please don't make me write down and jot when somebody gave a big shoe on the radio. And I got to jot down that date. And then the next time that person comes in for inspection, or everybody comes in for inspection, I'll start pulling every single bus tape and I will figure out who it is. I can figure it out. It's not that hard. Okay. If I've got the time, I know when it happened and the day that it happened, I can have that card in my computer and looking at it in less than 5 minutes. Please don't make me do that.
We're all adults.
Let's be adults.
What's the baby?
Moving on. Insurance cards. Make sure your card on your bus is current. If buses have been left at the garage over the summer, then they're probably already on there. I will add on to this. I've spoke with our insurance company. It's probably going to be up in August before we have specific insurance cards, but they've given us a fleet card that covers the whole fleet. They're all exactly the same. They're all identical. They're proof of insurance. So in all likelihood, that's probably going to be your insurance card this year. It's not going to say bus 1901 or 1902. It's just going to say fleet.
Have we ever had to use them?
If you're ever in an accident, they will ask for it. They will absolutely ask for it. Now, if it happens here in the county and we were to not have it, I could take it down to the city the next day and it would be fine. But if you're somewhere else, you better have it. Don't extend routes. You know, if you get new students on your buses, please don't extend your routes. We don't want to make routes any longer than they already are. Don't leave a running bus unattended. if you have to leave the driver's seat, try to get your adult monitor sit there with you. Again, same things we talk about every year. The Remind app, I'm still reusing that probably even more than ever before.
I didn't get one this lifetime.
You did or did not?
Did not.
Did not, okay.
So does he have to get a text also with those? I'm just curious.
Do you want now?
I always get a text when I get one of those.
Uh-huh.
We have to get both of those?
No, you do not. You do not. Are you getting like a notification through the app as well?
Yes.
So what I
get
do.
text and that.
Okay, so what I do is I go into the text message and I block that number. That's what I do, because a lot of my kids are on Remind messages. I block the text one. That way I only get the app notification. That's the fix to that. But if you're like Donnie and you stop getting messages, please let me know. A lot of times it's just as simple as me taking your name out and then adding you back on. Or if you have changed phones, I don't know, even though your phone number is the same, for whatever reason, if you switch to a different phone, sometimes it doesn't carry over, even though you log into it.
It didn't. I got a new phone, I went back in it, turned all that off, turned it back on, so I might get the next.
And maybe what happening too is if your old phone still exists out there somewhere, those messages may be still going to wherever that phone is.
Oh, I hope they don't see all that.
I have names on the list that I don't recognize. I don't know who they are. I mean, it's the weirdest names ever. But I think it's because that phone was used with somebody else somewhere else and that came along with them. It's really weird because I've removed people like, well, that's not one of our people. Why is that person there? Then I remove it, I get a call the next day. Hey, I got removed from the message app. Why did you remove me? Oh, well, you were, Clyde Barnum, said I didn't know who was. So, all right, last thing that I've got, district website, there it is. Miss Savannah is updating that, doing a great job with that. Please use that. Take a look at it every now and then. There's a lot of good stuff on there. A lot of your forms and documents are on there. Yeah, use that. It's great. There's also an app. You can go in Rockcastle Schools. Is that how we search it?
Yeah, just go to the App Store and type in Rockcastle County Schools, and it'll pop up, and you can just download it. And if you're not on social media, if you don't have Facebook or Twitter or all that, every single thing that we post on Facebook goes to that app. So you can see all announcements. You can see anything that you would typically see on Facebook, you can see on that app. So if you're not on Facebook, you're not a social media user, you can still get all the information.
It's a really good app, really clean, really straightforward.
Easy to use.
Easy to use, and there's going to be a lot of good information pushed out that way. School closings, if there's an emergency or something. That may be one of the quickest ways for us to get information out. So please, you download it, you get it, encourage others to get it. It's a great asset. All right, any questions for me? That's all that I've got on my stuff, I think. Yep, that's all mine. Anything else before we move on?
So that was Rockcastle Schools in the app.
Rockcastle County.
I should have put a screenshot of what it looks like.
If you go to the App Store, I think it just came as Rockcastle.
It's got our logo. You can't, if you find it, you can't miss it. It's our logo.
Big R with
Our- Yeah, it actually looks a lot like the Rocket Learner and Rocket Leader.
It's exactly the same thing.
All right, anything else before I move on about any of that? Okay, so this hopefully will not take 30 minutes. We'll just hopefully just take a few minutes, but this is a conversation that I've been wanting to have with everybody for a while now. Something that I've been working on behind the scenes for several months now. And I've asked her to come and kind of back me up and support what I'm telling you all, okay? What I'm going to talk about. And this is important. This potentially could be a big deal, okay? But first and foremost, before I say anything else, and I think she's going to emphasize what I'm going to say to you first. Nobody is losing their jobs, okay? Before I get into specifics and even get going along, I don't want anybody panicking, freaking out, getting scared. Nobody is losing their jobs. We're not eliminating staff. We're not getting rid of people. We're not looking to downsize the number of people we have. I'll get into specifics here in a minute, but we're not looking to get rid of staff. You want to kind of add?
So absolutely, what as Mr. Hopkins is going to explain, some steps we're taking to try to be more efficient in the district and to save money in the district. But our number one goal, and we were on a Zoom call last week with some people, and I said out loud, and Mr. Hopkins, supported this, and I said, we are taking 0 steps. We will end this call right now. We will not move forward if it means any of our staff members will not be employed with us. So don't anybody worry. I don't want anybody to leave this room and think, oh my gosh, am I gonna have a job driving a bus 2 years from now? If you want a job driving a bus 2 years now with Rockcastle County Schools, you have a job. So do not, in any way, shape, form, or fashion, have one iota of stress or anxiety about your future working for Rockcastle County Schools, because we are supporting you 100%.
Yep. And if you do hear something, rumors get going, you start hearing things out there, please call us. Call me, text me, text her, call her.
Yep.
I mean, communicate with us. Let us know if you're concerned or worried. We dispel that just as quickly as we can, and we'll give you the information. Okay? And this is us communicating with you. Okay? I've been working on this for a few months now, and I've been waiting for the right time, the right opportunity to have this conversation and to tell you exactly what I'm doing, what I've been working on, and what I've been doing. We've entered into a contract with a company by the name of School Transportation Systems. And like she said, what they do is they take your bus routes and they find ways to make them more efficient. What does more efficient mean? What am I talking about? I'm talking about less routes. Okay?
It could just be shorter routes.
It could just be shorter routes.
Your route is not exactly 100% the same as it is right now. Maybe it's shorter and you get done 10 or 15 minutes quicker.
But it does take it. Whereas right now we have 40 regular routes. Okay, and taking out special needs routes, we have 40 regular routes. Think about it, if we could do that with 35 routes. Okay, the number that I think we're kind of working off of is what, about $40,000? It costs us about $40,000 a year to run a school bus. Okay, think about it, if we had 5 less school buses, 5 less routes, that is $200,000 a year.
So that's 5 less people.
No, it is not. What did we just say first?
It's just 5.
Not losing our job.
Okay,
but-
okay, yes, it is,
But
potentially,
it's down.
yes, eventually, down the road, it could be 5 less people, 5 less subs that we have to get, 5 less people that we have to pay extra benefits for, 5 less people that we pay salary for, yes, it would.
Retired anyway. Exactly.
But yeah, them are not always constantly hiring, and it could just work that as that happens, it's a phase out of those that are retiring anyway.
So the way that I foresee this happening, the way that I want this to happen, I'm not promising this, I'm not guaranteeing this, but the way that I want this to work is if we do the eliminate 5 route, I'd like to eliminate them as people retire, as they resign, as they move on to other positions. If you're sitting here in this room right now, the route that you're driving right now, I have every intention of keeping it exactly the same and not changing it. Okay? I know Jack Alexander, if I ask him to drive another route, he's see, I'm going to the house. I have no doubt. And I know.
You got that right.
And I know those things. There's some other of you out here that I know that about. And I'm going to try my best to accommodate that. That is the intention. That is the plan. With that said, though, if you do switch to different routes, you do change to different routes, I'm going to say to you, hey, that's what this route looks like today. That's what it looks like for this year. 2 years from now, 3 years, 5 years from now, it may not look like that. Okay? And for this to be done and done correctly, it might literally be we just have to blow up our whole route system and start from scratch and redesign every single route. Okay? But they're going to take the information that we're giving them. Okay? We did the bus rider study. That was part of this. Okay? The teachers coming on, counting the students. That was part of this. We've given them access to our infinite campus. Okay? There's some other things we've got to do first before any of this can happen. We've got to get GPS on our buses. They have to know exactly where we're going to, exactly where the bus door is opening at, and where kids are getting on and off to be able to redesign them and do it differently and do it more efficiently. They've got to have more information. And we're working on those steps. And those steps are, as you know, there's one bus right now that has GPS, and it's not even turned on. So we've still got to work through that part of the process as well before we can even get to that point. Okay? So, but what's going to happen though, if that does happen, that does occur, most likely the plan would be for every route to potentially be the same length. Okay? Right now, we have some routes that are shorter than others. We have some that are longer than others. But to make this work and to happen, most likely, in most situations, it's gonna even them all out. They're gonna take software like is used for UPS. Take that for example. UPS has really good software. So they take that routing software, they take all of this information along with how many kids are actually on the bus, where they're actually stopping at, and then they create new routes. Okay, that's what the goal is. That's what the end game. Again, let me emphasize, the way I see this happening is through attrition, is through retirements. If we could do.
It's not happening the other way.
Yeah.
It's not going to, because we're committed 100%. If they come back tomorrow and say, you can save $300,000 by cutting 7 routes, we're gonna say, no, thank you. We've already told the company, I've told them, Mr. Hopkins has told them, we have told them this is a 5 to 7 year plan for us. We are doing this slowly as people retire, period, no questions. We are not, no one is going to wake up tomorrow and get a call to say your route's being eliminated, you're no longer employed with us. That is not happening. Not happening. So think long term, 5 years from now, what is this gonna look like for our school district? Think, and you know that we have people that retire every year.
In this company, the way that they make money is when they show us savings. We paid this company $0. We're now no money to work with them. They don't make any money until they're able to show us that they provide us with savings. We're in a contract with them. It's very possible that contract ends a few years from now and they've not made a single penny. We've not made a single change. At the end, it's our call. It's our decision, and you all will be part of those decisions. So as we start working through this, if we are able to do some of this, you all will continue to be involved, part of the decision-making process, part of the feedback. It will be your all's as well. Okay?
What questions?
Yep.
Throw them our way.
What is the projection on the population and the students down the road? You have any idea of how we're going?
Well, according to the census, our population is declining in the district. Our student enrollment, though, surprisingly has increased over the last, since COVID, we're showing an increase in our student enrollment, but overall population of the county is decreasing.
But did they take into account like the mega whatever thing over off 150?
Well, of course, the census
Right.
did not at that
Well,
time,
it wasn't
so
even-
that could be,
Right.
yeah, that could change everything.
Right.
I mean, if we have industry relocate, that, I mean, that's gonna change our bus routes completely, depending on how we have to adapt to that.
Could that actually require redistricting some kids?
We've had those conversations. We've talked about it.
Yeah.
But
You know, we look at, Roundstone is declining in population, whereas Broadhead Elementary is busting at the seams, so. And that's not anything formal that we've looked into, but we've had some discussions as, what if we did this and this road went here?
And for the most part, the conversations we did have was more population related than bus route related. So the conversation we've had with this company, no, none of those conversations requires district realignment has been any part of. They'll align our routes where we tell them our boundaries are at. Anything else?
Please promise that you won't leave worried. Just promise. I've been honest and upfront with you all my entire time that I've been superintendent, and I stand here and give you my word that I will never ever agree to something that would involve anybody losing their job. So please do not worry.
If you think of anything else, if you want to stick around and talk one-on-one a little bit more, call me later, text me later. Same with please let us know. We'll have the conversations with you. But this is us communicating, and we will continue to communicate going forward. It's kind of killed my soul that I've been working on this and knowing this was out there for the last 6 months or so, and I've not been able to share it with you. It's promise. It's not me hiding anything. It's just waiting for the right moment and the right time to share this. And the work that we've done up to this point has been very little. Until we get GPS on the buses, the project is pretty much stalled out until that happens. But the GPS is a good thing in a lot of different ways.
So is it gonna be GPS in the computers, or is it VCM, or is it just like a standalone
system?
Because those, Laurel County and several counties are already using.
Yeah, oh yeah, Zonar Sonar's the company we're working with. 2303 came with it. They did they let me try it out for like 2 months for free. Pretty cool stuff.
GPS is gonna be something that our district's gonna have to pay for having it installed, or is it gonna be something that the company?
We will have to pay for it installed. Right now, we're working on getting a grant that will get that paid for, because it is a pretty big upfront expense. But it's also a monthly subscription as well that we would eventually be responsible for. But again, as you can see, $40,000 for one route, you come out ahead quite a bit.
Will these new buses have it on it?
You have to buy it as an option.
Oh.
It's pretty much an option. As far as the GPS, yeah, the one, for whatever reason, that one came with it, for whatever reason. But it's an option, and it is better. If we do this, continue to do this, we'll probably start buying them with already pre-installed, already on there. The other thing the GPS does, keep up with is, your speed as well. The same.
So Ken, how many years do you think it'll be so we get this done? No idea.
No idea. We could start making changes next year. I don't think this current school year there will be any changes made. The earliest any change will be made would be next school year. And it might be 2 years, it might be 3 years. It just depends on the information we get back from them. Where can we do something at, who's retiring, who's resigning, things like that. It's like she said, it's a long range plan.
He's still worried about his route getting as long as mine. He said I can have his route if he got along with mine.
I guarantee you could.
All right, anything else? Okay, again, we're done for the day. That's all we got. Please communicate with us, talk with us. Who all's riding the bus back to the middle school? Who all's on there? Will one of you please drive that bus back to the middle school with everybody? Please. Whoever drives it, just leave it in the parking lot. Just